Hello, hello, hello.
Hey,
I'm sick no more. 2 weeks of flu and I'm finally better. Can you believe it? Can you
No.
I believe it.
I believe it.
I can tell from your voice that you've gotten better.
Yes, I'm much better. So the last two streams, well, the last week's stream was Mark.
Hello.
Whoops.
Hey,
Mark
hello,
talking the whole
hello.
time.
Hello.
Hey.
I'm
hold on a
sick
second.
no more.
What's wrong,
2
Steven?
weeks
I
of
have,
flu and I'm finally better.
Hold
Can you
on.
believe it?
I had it open in like multiple places, so everyone just heard
okay.
the echoes.
Okay.
Everyone's like, "Oh no, it's infinity and beyond." Okay, I hate when that happens.
That is an issue.
That is an issue, and it's our issue. But we got people. Everyone's busy. I've been sick. Derik's been building a table, ranking ancestries, every single ancestry known to mankind.
No.
Archetypes.
Every single archetype known to mankind.
Yes.
Mark's been working like a dog. Mark has ant invasion. Mark has an ant invasion
That's true. I could have to leave this stream at any time.
at
Wait,
any
wait.
time.
Weirdly, I heard that if you have one, they just keep coming. But we actually killed so many of them on the first night that it's been 2 days, and there's only been like one more that showed up since then. But they could come back at any time, and we have called in the apartment to fix it. And
I have two words for you: diatomaceous earth.
What?
Diatomaceous earth.
Yes. So diatomaceous earth isn't earth at all. It's actually the crushed up. It's used in fertilizer. It's crushed up little shells of diatoms, fossilized diatoms, but it's predominantly it's silica based. They're sea organisms. You sprinkle it very fine powder, and ants, insectites, any sort of arthropod, it essentially desiccates them to death, and it gets trapped all over them. They bring it back to their nests. It gets spread throughout the hive, and it just no creature, because creatures can adapt to any sort of poison, but they can't adapt to not having water. So, and it's environmentally friendly. Your dog could eat it. Your cat could eat it. It won't make a difference. And it's not a poison or anything, but yeah.
Welcome to Gardening with Derik.
There you go. Well, you know what? We're just going to let our apartment complex do what they're going to do, although they're really dragging their heels. If I thought that if I was
take control of your destiny.
Take
if
control.
I was an apartment complex, I would want to handle it so that it wouldn't spread to other apartments. But,
You think they care? So, as everyone,
I think they care.
so people are new to the stream. Welcome. We'll get into the topic in a few minutes. We usually just give people a couple of minutes to get in, and then we usually just talk about stuff. But we are going to talk, just to give everyone a preview, if you want to start asking questions or do super chats. I see there's several hundred people in the chat already. Is that Hasbro is starting their phase 2 of their apology tour. The first phase was Kyle Brinks going around talking to people. Believe it or not, I don't think that went so great. And I don't think a lot of people were watching those videos. It's like the numbers were really low. It was I was kind of not even interested after a while because he kept saying the same stuff.
I think a lot of people were very fatigued.
They were fatigued. And quite frankly, you can only say there was nothing new. The next phase.
I don't know. I watched them. I felt like the content creators did a good job curating and like skipping through some of the
they did a good job
skipping through to the ones where he really said something interesting or unusual,
Yeah.
and then making comments on it.
But the other thing is that they're starting phase 2, and I brought a couple of people in here because phase 2 is the invite you to Hasbro, meet our developers, and let's talk phase. Now, I've actually done this back in the day when I was in video games. I went to EA more times than I can count, and I can tell you all about this. I've been on that side. It's pretty interesting. So I'll tell you my experience of being on that side. I did it even for WoTC. I actually have done it for WoTC when they came out with 4th edition. So I know what it's like to be the content creator and get invited to these talks. Mark knows what it's like from the developer side, from the Paizo side, and we're also going to talk about them. They're thinking about starting to go to cons again, and I know Derik knows a lot about that, as do I, about what it used to be like to actually talk to WoTC and go to the castle at cons. So I thought the three of us could tackle all aspects of this approach and what we think of it. But we're not going to get to it just yet. Let's let some people in, but that's what we're going to talk about, is that they're moving to this new phase of the "we care about you" phase, or we're listening phase, which strangely it should have been something they've been doing all along, and it's only interesting because they stopped doing this and they felt they were too good for it. They felt they were too above it, and it's so weird.
I don't know if I say that.
Oh, dude, they stopped going to Gen Con, man. That is like...
I don't know if it's because they felt they were above Gen Con. I think it's because it could be for a lot of reasons. And when we get into it, I can talk about
it's
Paizo and cons and different things with that in a way that may shed light.
Did you ever work the booth, Mark?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Many times.
Every year that I was at Paizo.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because I was going to say, I mean, I probably met you at some point, but I mean, the Paizo booth is a madhouse for like, especially the first day. But like, it is, I mean, it's crazy how many people go through that thing. I mean, the mountains of core book or the mountains of books that get loaded on those tables. And you come back on like a Saturday and they're sold out. It's always,
trust me, I was
actually awesome.
when Pathfinder just like completely sold out right away.
Oh yeah,
I was there too. And
the last time I was at Gen Con, because I didn't go, 2020 got canceled. 2021 was still through COVID, and then 2022 we tried to go, but we couldn't get a hotel room, and I didn't want to like Uber in every day. So the last time I went to Gen Con was 2019, where I picked up the core rule book for Pathfinder 2.
Yep,
from the booth.
I was telling people that core rule book back then. So
I have a mountain of all the Paizo buttons from years and years and years of Gen Cons.
So again, those of you who are new, I'm Steve Glicker. I run Roll for Combat. Mark Seifter, formerly of Paizo, co-creator of Pathfinder 2nd Edition rules, has written like 100 books, and is director of game design at Roll for Combat. And Derik Melinda,
professional
bug killer extraordinaire, aka Carpenter of the Stars, and
or Carpenter Ant of the Stars.
Okay, Carpenter and Star, and also Knights of Last Call.
Right. Yes, Knights of Last Call.
That's right.
We are the internet's premier gaming influencer channel. You're the premier. I don't care about viewers or viewership YouTube channel. That's correct. That is absolutely.
You are the premier actual play that has ever TPK'd
right.
their
he
entire
had this
party
incredibly
due to being
successful
paid a donation to do so.
Made a ton of money. Was doing great. Kill everyone.
Listen, sometimes you got to kill everybody. It's fine.
And that's it. No more money. No more fame.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I refuse to be a slave to capitalism. But no, we have a lot of fun, and we talk about Pathfinder 2. We talk about a lot of other games as well. Basically, we pretty much talk about everything but Dungeons and Dragons at this point. So
now you're here to talk with us
about Dungeons and
Dragons. I got to talk about it somewhere. Like I never.
You can't release it.
Yeah, I never talk about
release Valve at your own stream.
Exactly.
This is corporate policy. This isn't the game itself.
Yeah.
So that's what we're going to be talking about. Also, so there's this new thing that we're starting next week called RPG Superstar. For those of you who don't know, this is a big deal. Pay attention.
May I recommend making a construct out of rope?
We only have 3 of them.
Yeah, we didn't have any in the second year, so like there's been like a lacuna, Derik. We
had a couple that were like repeats of others.
What element would the rope construct be, though, Derik? Do you think it would be like made out of hemp, so it would have the wood element?
I mean, yeah, I would think it would have to be wood, right?
So before we get into it, so RPG Superstar, you can go to it now. It's the old RPG Superstar. This is how it works. We have 2 books, Battles You Best Story, Battles You Best Story, Strange and Unusual. RPG Superstar has been around since 2008, I think, or 2007. It's been around like 15 years.
Long time.
Paizo did it for years. They stopped doing it. We took it over. And how it works is you submit a monster. You could submit up to 3. They have to adhere to a theme. This year's theme is Elemental Storm, where you have to have your monster infused or part of one of 20 elements. But we have weird elements. We have things like time and music and metal. So it's not just fire. And then we have a guideline for how the element should be used. And you can have up to 3 elements in your monster. and we explain it. We'll go into the detail how you do it, and then you submit a monster.
All right.
And if after you get a couple weeks, everyone can submit. It then goes through public voting. It then goes private voting, and we have a who's who of judges this year, man. We got a lot of judges this year. Sometimes it was pulling teeth in the beginning, and now it's a lot easier. But we got a lot of judges, a lot of 5e judges this time. A lot of people who are trying to learn, who are 5e developers and want to learn Pathfinder, or are starting to learn, and so we're having them help judge. And then they go through, and then we rank them, and then the winners get money, they get credits, and they get published. And to be honest, it's helped a lot of people who want to get into the industry. It's actually helped them quite a bit professionally. So if you're interested in this, and it starts next week, so you can, it's just RPG Superstar, and the full, we'll have a lot. You'll probably see it everywhere, but it'll be rpgsuperstar.com. You go there now, and you can even make your monster now if you want to prepare for it. And that's it. So again, that's going to start next week. We just came out with the Stenos Year of Monsters, and next month is Dungeons Expanded, where we have new dungeons that you can play. If you go to battlezoo.com, you can download and play a dungeon right now. It was our April Fool's joke that literally started the entire Year of Monsters.
Started a revolution.
It did start a revolution.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. It's someone said my monster's the Iron Maiden. Hey man, that's a good idea. It's not a bad idea.
That could be the metal.
It's a good monster idea.
All right, here, take. Someone develop this. It's a time monster, but the combat starts at the end when everybody's dead, and then you have to. Then you at the first group to get healed back to full hit points and get all their spells back. They're the ones that win the fight.
I've actually done things like that. I had a monster that if you cast heal on it. Oh, I forgot how it worked, but it was like, the spells work reverse. So,
sure.
So if you hasted it, it was slow.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And, I think it was for Starfinder actually. They didn't, I don't think they used it because it was a little too heavy.
That does seem like a little bit too hard.
It was a little too hard, right? But they liked the concept. We used like a simplified version of it. But,
that makes sense.
Yeah. But, in fact, we have the notes. Time, by the way, Derik, hardest element to use. Even as a warning, if you're going to use time, like you better know what you're doing.
Warning on any assignments that are given that have to do special time effects, because I've seen far too many, even in other editions of D&D or Pathfinder, that are either game breaking or, like, even if it's not powerful, one that makes your game unpleasant to play.
Right.
Like, for example, there was an amulet in D&D that if you never used it, it made your life a living hell. But the moment you used it for the day, your game was fine until the next day. And it was that as an immediate action, it could rewind the turn by one entire round. And so that is so bad, because that means that you had to track everything that happened from a moment, like initiative point by initiative point basis, in case it got rewound. But the moment it gets used, it's like, oh, that's not hard. I can just go back around, and now I don't have to track it. So that's why I put that note in there. Not many authors can give me something for time that is legitimately fun, evocative, feels like time, and is easy to use. Jessica Catalan, who's one of the Paizo developers, actually wrote the time spells for the Secrets of Magic. That's the one that had time spells in it, and she managed to do ones that really felt like going through time, but were not super hard to adjudicate, which I appreciated.
So I don't want to interrupt, but Josh Thompson, we're starting now. I always give 15 minutes. That's my goal. I always take, because we're a live show, and I always see people like, I missed. So I want to give people a little time. And if you're watching this on Memorex, just skip right to it. So
all right, here we are.
So here's the deal. Bob's World Builder, I forgot his exact title.
It's just Bob World Builder.
World Builder. Okay, Bob World Builder had a video today where he was invited, and he read the whole video, and he didn't even know if it was real or not. Because he said that it was an email where he's invited in April, the beginning of April, to go to WoTC.
Yep.
To meet the development team, see the Foundry VTT, yeah, right. See the one D&D VTT that they're working on, and get a preview of 6th edition. And he was so stunned he didn't know if it was real. And what I found fascinating is that, and I swear to God, Bob, I'm not throwing any shade at you. He's never been to a gaming convention before.
Yeah, that was. He said that was surprising.
I was kind of surprised.
I'll tell you the most surprising thing about. I'll tell you the most surprising thing about that letter. Hey, we want you to come out. We want to show you. If use it, don't use it. Record it, don't record it. We're not going to pay. The thing that shocked me the most is they said we're going to pay for your room, board, flight, and per diem.
Yeah, that's common. That's actually pretty. That's That of course
if they
do
call
that.
you out. Then
It's one thing to invite you to a creator summit. Nope. It's another thing to pay for your travel arrangements.
They all do that. They all do that. Not only that,
Wizards of the Coast do that.
Well, if they want to do the right,
I know that they've had those things for Magic the Gathering, and I know plenty of people who did not go because they did not do that.
Okay, these are not the same thing. So I'm going to use the same analogy in the video game world, because that's what they're really turning into now in the video game world. And by the way, if you have questions, super chats get answered right away. Do like and subscribe. If we get,
and I'm here, so they.
And if we get right, we have Derik here. Let's see if we get enough likes. We only have 71. If we get 200 likes, we'll make Derik do something super embarrassing. 200 likes. Okay.
199 people.
Well, 200 likes, and we always get him to do something embarrassing. If you ask any super chats, we'll ask them right away. Otherwise, feel this. So. Back in the day, 15 plus years ago, when I was doing Gaming Steve and I was in the top of the podcasting world, I was invited. I lived in Manhattan. I was invited to these things like nearly weekly. I mean, I was constantly. Now, a lot of them had press tours in Manhattan. So normally, if it was a press tour in Manhattan, I would just get invited to a Manhattan a time, and I would meet the developers. They would show me the game. I can ask questions. I would bring my podcasting recording material. There was no YouTube back then, so we would just, I would record them and publish it later. And it would be anything as small as just meeting them and playing the game. Sometimes you would get gifts. Sometimes they would give you fun stuff. I went to the Xbox 360 launch party in Manhattan, which was awesome. Let me tell you, they rented out a huge club, and there was like stars there, and they gave us like free, remember the face plates? We got like the free face plates, and you got a lot of free tchotchkes, but the best ones are the Blizzard ones and EA. So EA would fly me out to EA constantly. And we did one for, it was like Lord of the Rings, like a shadow. I forget, it was one of these Lord of the Rings RTS type games, and it was for PC. And they flew you out completely free. They put you up for free. They bring you there. You get you get to meet the actors. You get to meet the studio.
Yeah.
They brought in like a special effects guy, because it's right in Hollywood, who like makes weapons for Lord of the Rings and stuff. So we'd meet like these special effects guys, these Weta people, and then we get to play the game. Of course, we get to talk to everyone. We all hang out because there's like 20 of us there. And then at night, they brought us to medieval times for dinner. And then we went to BattleTech after that. They gave us tons of free like keyboard. They gave you hundreds. They gave me a free video card. They gave you like $1,000 worth of crap.
So they wined and dined you.
Yeah.
And Bob said the same thing in the video. And what's wrong with that?
Well, you know what happened? I'll tell you.
I'm wondering the same
I have
thing.
A part two.
It sounds amazing. It sounds like the company is being great. And performing in good faith.
I have a part two. I have a part two. I did not give it a great preview, and they were pissed at me. They actually called me out, because like, how dare you not like tell how awesome we are after we do all this stuff. Now that's the thing. They're like, well, you have no. They say, oh, you're not supposed to like actually say, you don't be influenced by us. You can do whatever you want. But they actually called me out on it. Then they invited me again out for Command and Conquer, and they did the same thing. Oh, that was the one. We didn't do BattleTech. We did a flight simulator when I did that one. And I met the guy who played Kane, because Kane was a tester at EA. So we met him, and that was fun. And then we got to play the new Command and Conquer. I forgot what it was. And same deal. They fly you out. They pay your way. That was even more fun. And then from Microsoft, you know what they did for Vista? When Vista came out, they sent me a laptop computer. It was a Ferrari laptop. And they said, here, we want you to test and talk about Vista. We sent you a computer with it pre-installed. Feel free to donate or return the computer if you want, but you don't have to. Don't feel obligated. So I got this like $4,000 laptop with Vista pre-installed to talk about it. So just give you an idea of like how crazy this gets.
Yeah,
it gets pretty crazy, these things.
Well, let's kind of highlight a couple of things though, right?
Yes.
Those weren't small companies; those were big companies doing big marketing moves.
Yes,
buying their way into the hearts and minds of customers, influencers, people in the community. D&D is a big brand now. They've got a lot of money behind it. They've got D&D Beyond. They've got D&D whatever virtual tabletop. They got a movie coming out. So yeah, they're going to do the same things. They're going to throw a ton of money at it, and they're going to start doing the things that
but
that they do.
They weren't doing this before, and it was specifically
because they didn't care.
I know, that's what's so amazing. It's like, why weren't they doing it before? Like, why did this really?
Because they needed to justify the expenditure, right?
Yeah, so because D&D was undermonetized.
From the inside of like being at Paizo, I can tell you that before or after, I bet you that those designers and the other people working on the game for Dungeons & Dragons would have loved to have the creators in at any time. They may have even had a suggestion box or something where they kept asking for it, potentially, right? Where they asked for something similar, like, hey, can we do this? Can we do something like that? And it probably got rejected because it was a cost. And the big company was like, well, we don't see that cost is enough to defray, or the benefit is enough to defray the cost. Then suddenly, due to this situation, and that's why I kind of feel like the face pumping Picard is like more negative of a picture for this than I actually feel about it, because I think it's good that that the people working on the game are able to come in, or to have the creators come in and have a conversation with them that they probably wanted to have. And they're probably excited to see them, and that corporate is able and willing to put some money towards schmoozing the creators at this point. Like, that's a good thing.
I agree completely with Mark.
Well, hold on. We got a super chat, and actually, I can talk about this. Just for $20 wrote, this is used all over, especially medical fields. They don't ask for anything by giving these trips because doctors want to be wined and dined and will promote and get invited back. Even generally ethical folk get swayed. Okay, so my day job is I actually build websites for pharmaceutical companies, and I do MOAs and I do speaker conferences. So I've been doing this for 25, 30 years. A
bunch of flash games to get your oxy.
Yeah, sometimes. In the old days, we used to do flash games. But yes, no. So anyhow, I work with every pharma company. I know all the rules. I know all this stuff. So back in the day, yes, you're 100% true. I once had a doctor who asked us to buy them like a $5,000 big screen TV for him to like switch to a drug. Back in the day, like 15 years ago, it was out of control. Like they were spending tens, if not hundreds of thousands on these doctors. About 10 years ago, legislation was passed. It's not allowed anymore. And they can't spend, like, for example, they go to these conferences where they get food, and they used to like give them like these $500 dinners. You have to give them a dinner, quote, reasonably priced, or a lunch. You can't spend more than like $40. And in fact, New Jersey, where most of this occurs, because everyone's in New Jersey, the rules are so strict now that they all start to move out of New Jersey and go to places like Connecticut and Pennsylvania. So
food prices have been going up faster than the rules have been updated.
Yeah, so this is not true anymore. Like this is actually kind of a misnomer that in the days they used to get thousands, tens of thousands of dollars worth of free stuff. The rules now are very strict, and it just doesn't exist anymore. It really just doesn't. So
yeah, but I mean, okay, so that might be the case, but I mean, it doesn't even necessarily have to be.
Well, Well, I'm saying
No.
for Pharma. For
No,
Pharma,
I know, but
I'm just saying.
look,
but there's no
I guess
rules
here-
for WoTC. They can do anything they want.
I just want to come up. I just want to. Here's what I don't like. This is what makes me mad about the 5e community, the RPG community, the people in the chat. It's like they're doing a good thing. You said they acted morally bankrupt, corrupted. They made bad mistakes. So what? You're just done with them forever? Like, wouldn't you rather them try to be a better company that tries to listen to creators and tries to talk to people? And isn't that what you want?
Well, this is where
I think
it gets...
the design team of D&D wanted to listen to creators and talk to creators probably the whole time.
Sure.
Too. Like, and the other things they're doing, we didn't mention this, but another part of their phase of damage control that also I saw came in today is the free trial of D&D Beyond. They waited until the news cycle of the bad news kind of went away, and I just saw like this morning when I woke up
really?
A tweet that was like, you can get a free trial of D&D Beyond with an unlimited number of character creation to see what it'll be like when you so they're
I
trying
called
to get
that.
people.
It was a month late, but I did call that. Remember?
I think that they waited a month to get the bad news out before they started trying to bring people in. So they're now, you're right that they've shifted phases. It's not just one thing with the summit. It's multiple prongs to the approach
Sure.
of trying to get people back. And I'm not sure I would say things as strongly as Derik just said them, but I do agree with him in so much as like whatever you think about the company, the move of like giving people things for free or having a summit, starting a conversation is better than not doing that in terms of companies are big places. There's some people want to do that all along.
I mean, like a bunch of people in chat are like, like some people are like, oh, I'm still in wait and see mode. That's fine. Like, look, it's not essential goods. If you want to take your money and go spend it on Pathfinder 2, or you want to go spend it on the newest, something from Evil Hat or, from Modifius, like thumbs up. I mean, those are great games. I love them. You should play them. You should be investigating them anyways. That's awesome. But
buy an indie RPG. Buy one that's even smaller than the ones that Derik just said.
Exactly. Go to itch.io and find some crazy creator who just wants $2, to their Ko-Fi. But like, that's awesome. And I totally support that. But at the same time, I just like, I don't know what you want from them. Do you want them to like, is this what you want? Wizards of the Coast announces Dungeons and Dragons has been, everyone's been fired. The brand has been shut down. There will never be another Dungeons and Dragons release again. And the brand, all existing sales of PDFs and print products are going to be destroyed, stop forever. We're shutting down D&D Beyond. Everything is shuttered for all time. Is that going to make people be like, yeah, we fucking finally won? It's like, I don't get it. I don't know what people want.
More realistically, Hasbro would ice it for like 5 to 10 years and then de-ice it later if they thought that the brand was like hazardous and was radioactive.
So wait, two things. First, I'll answer your question. Second, let's get to Cheese of Ages.
Yeah, Cheese has a super chat.
Oh, he has a super chat. So the first thing is, what do I want? I want them to stop being... I still feel like they're playing around in the shadows and they're not being totally honest. I just feel like every time I listen to Kyle talk, I feel like it's damage control. I just don't feel like it's these honest discussions. And you know what? I'm going to talk about this later. Back in the 4th edition days, I used to see them. Okay, there was a convention in New York called Icon. It was like, quote, the biggest convention in the East Coast. It was a small convention. Okay, now your average convention in the middle of nowhere is bigger than this convention was. But at the time, it was one of the biggest. Everyone, all the top people were there. All of WoTC was there. Back when they started 4th edition, I played endless 4th edition games. The guys who like were running WoTC, like Randy was there. I'm trying to remember who else was there. Like Chris Perkins, all of them. They were just there running the games for anybody. It was like, and
they used to do that.
Yeah, it felt connected. It felt like, wow, these are the guys who make it and they're playing with me. And it was an honor. I used to play, you know what? I still remember to this day. I went to a convention. Steve Jackson was there. I'm talking with him. He goes, hey, you want to play Illuminati? And I was like, oh my words.
I mean, there might be a lot of people here who don't understand that.
Okay,
but if you got to play Illuminati with Steve Jackson,
I did.
That's like playing D&D with Gary Gygax.
Yeah, it
like,
was. It was. I still remember that moment. It gets
that
better.
Is insane.
Wait, it gets better.
Is that I would want to play D&D, but like I have some problems with Gary Gygax, whereas I would want to play with Steve Jackson, but I have some problems with Illuminati.
Well, here's the thing. This was back when Illuminati was a collectible card game. Do you remember that? No one does.
It was back in those days.
It was back in those days. Back
yeah.
in the early aughts or whatever. Not even aughts, the 90s.
The non-collectible one is the one I had more of a problem
I had both,
with.
yeah. But the collectible one
didn't really work as far as I could tell, but I think the collectible one did.
So what happened is I was playing it with him, and I'll never forget, we're playing, and so what do you do? By the way, I kind of let him win because I'm like, oh, what do I do? Do I beat Steve Jackson? Do I not? I didn't know what to do. So I kind of like let him win. But I was looking at one of the cards and I said, this card doesn't make sense. And I read it to him and explained it. And then all of a sudden he goes, you're right. You're right. And he starts screaming. I'm like, oh my God, did I just break Steve Jackson? I felt like somebody goes, you found the mistake. You found the mistake. And then he went and he goes, you win. It's like anyone who finds a mistake. And then he's like, here, you could choose any 10 cards you want. And he had like the whole set. And he's like, of like the rares. He goes, any cards you want, 10 cards for free. And they gave me the print press sheets of the Illuminati press sheets. And I had them hanging on my walls for years.
Wow, that's cool.
I know, because I found, and then I knew I was a game designer because I found the mistake.
So, listen, I had a very similar experience playing with D&D with people at various small cons. In fact, actually, at the early days of when it was literally still just D&D Next, they were very, I think after 4th edition, maybe they felt a little disconnected from the community, and they were going to like Winter Fantasy in Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Oh yeah,
I got to play early drafts with like Monty Cook when he was still attached to the project and stuff. And, they're very engaged with the community. But for the people who are saying I was being hyperbolic, yes, congratulations. I was being hyperbolic about like them shutting down D&D for 5. They're not going to do that, obviously. And people are saying, well, we don't have a problem with it. We have a problem with the corporate structure. We have a problem with the management. The management needs to go. Okay, but here's the problem. You did this. How did you do this? You made D&D too popular. Okay? It's a big brand now. It's worth a lot of money. It isn't going to have the same folksy charm that Steven is so waxing poetically about, waxing nostalgically about. You just can't. It doesn't scale that well. I mean, the size of the D&D population and the number of people playing it means you can't. I don't know. You just can't do it that way anymore. And it's going to be run like a business. It's going to be run like a corporation because it is a corporation. You can't be some small quirky game when you're making $1 billion a year.
Well, first of all, you can, but let's get to Cheese of Ages. We've got him at Super Chat. He wrote $5. What are the odds that WoTC does their own convention after launch of 1D&D and the VTT? Probably slim to none because it requires years of
That's
planning.
Too much logistics.
It's so hard to do. I was there when they started BlizzCon, and I remember talking with those guys a lot. I can tell you about my days of the Blizzard stuff. Oh my God, did they go out of their way to make people feel good? It was so much work. Now, will they do one of these little summits, or can they do a small convention? Yes. And they used to have these D&D conventions. They used to have Winterfest. They used to have this D&D experience in Washington, D.C. I used to go to. So they had these cons, and they used to go to Icon, and then they used to go to Gen Con. They used to go to everything. They don't do anything now. Like, they don't go to anything anywhere. And I think that's the problem, is that they are above the community. And I tell you, when you go to Gen Con, every single publisher, big, small, and otherwise, they're there. There's actually only 2 people I can think of that is not there. Pokemon isn't there.
Nope.
But they have subsidiaries, so they kind of are there. And WoTC isn't there, but that's it.
Okay, a couple things. I wonder about this. Okay, again, history lesson for people who don't know.
Oh yeah, Hasbro, by the way, used to run a convention in Boston. Actually, it was in Rhode Island, and I went to it, by the way.
But Gen Con is called that because of the Geneva Convention. It started in Lake Geneva, which is where TSR, Tactical Studies Rules, came from, which was the company that made D&D, got bought by Wizards of the Coast. At some point, can't exactly remember the exact date, Peter Adkinson, the CEO of Wizards of the Coast, left the company / sold it to Hasbro. When they did that, they spun out Gen Con as its own company, and it became Gen Con LLC. And Gen Con was no longer for many, 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 many years, it was owned by, TSR / Wizards of the Coast.
By the way, it's not Geneva Convention, it's Geneva Lake, by the way.
Well, sure, but Gen Con.
Yeah.
I mean, the con stands for convention.
Yes.
I wonder if the fact that Peter Adkinson left Wizards of the Coast and they spun it out of the company, did that have anything to do with Wizards pulling out from, supporting Gen Con?
I think no. I
don't think so. They were still supporting it.
I don't think so at all. I think it was the difference between hard money and soft money, though, because soft money is when you're spending money within a organization. It's soft money. So, like, if you own Gen Con and you're Hasbro and you're setting up your own convention, they charge themselves, but it's just departments exchanging money. So that's soft money because the money never really leaves the organization. Hard money is, well, we got to now pay someone else and the money's leaving our company. So that's real expenditures as opposed to fake. And maybe, but they're so bad. You know what? I don't know. We can't figure out. Like, I don't know why they just stopped. They just stopped going.
Right. Like Coca-Cola is by far the world's most popular soft drink.
Whoops.
But they spend more money on advertising than anyone. Right? Like I have to admit, it was very odd and conspicuous to be in that world where D&D, the game's the hobby's largest entity, Wizards of the Coast, the people who make these games, because we're talking about D&D, but Magic the Gathering is very huge at Gen Con as well, and it's always run by like Pastimes or some third party entity. It was so strange for them not to have a presence at Gen Con. And why? And they left.
So we have OT's.
Well, I think I know the answer to that.
Oh,
wait. Let's do a super chat. OT's very first super chat for £2 wrote, "Thanks, Derik, for being so biased."
No, he didn't say biased.
No, it's so based.
It said for being so based. That's the opposite of, well, not the opposite of biased. But
it's not the opposite, but
is in a different direction.
Well,
yes.
I think you're biased, but he thinks you're based. Tomato. There we go.
Yeah, well, we'll go with it. All right, Mark.
I think I know what it is, or at least I can make a guess based on my time in the industry. So I believe that the first time that they reduced and pulled out was due to a dispute that they happened to be having, a financial dispute they happened to be having at the time. So my fully conjecture, just based on watching other game companies do things, is that after that happened, they looked at their numbers and were like, wow, that didn't really impact 5e's growth at all. In fact, we had a great year and it costs X amount of money to do it.
Yep.
And they're still disputing with us somewhat or whatever. Let's just never do it again.
Yep. I believe it.
Because so like that, what I've seen in general is like game companies that, like, against their will or unintentionally for some components of them pull back. Maybe it's the pandemic, maybe it's something else. Then find that this gives them data they didn't have before because they didn't risk missing big conventions of what actually happened when we missed the big convention, and it turns out that in whatever spreadsheet or format they were using to try to balance the cost to what they perceived the benefit to be, it turned out that the benefit side observed was lower than the benefit side predicted. And that has led to lower engagements with conventions, lower sending out of people. But I feel like that, I'm not saying that's the right call. I feel like that actually misses out on a certain amount of intangible benefits that are gained from the visibility in certain like regions of the country, especially for smaller conventions. You send one guest of honor out, like Stephen was talking about, Icon seeing those one or two staffers. I think there are many benefits that can be gained by sending people to conventions, but I think that's why they stopped. And that is my insider information, but I don't really have the actual answer. It's guessing based on ways that I've seen similar companies reacting before.
So I wrote for $20. There's a difference from opening channels to listen, Zoom meetings, breakouts, and conventions emails, but trying to access to perks is marketing, not product development. I don't blame Bob. WoTC's trying to do good PR.
To buy good PR.
Yeah, to buy. Try to buy.
Yeah, we're missing the U, but
yes.
I think that's what they mean.
I mean, to be clear, companies spend millions of dollars to make 30-second ads in the Super Bowl. I mean, this is what companies do. They spend money to try to influence people to talk nicely
that's
about
why
the company.
that's why they're called influencers.
You're
Right?
100%.
They're not called influencers because they don't influence people.
I'm not saying that you have to go out and buy D&D because they're trying to be nice and they're inviting Bob out to
this is what
you can still say, screw D&D. That's fine. I'm just saying.
I completely agree, but here's the thing. Okay, this is what I found so interesting about Bob. And again, I have no issues with Bob at all, but it's fascinating that he's never been to a convention, which I found. I mean, look, not everyone's been to conventions.
Videos are good.
So I think Bob's videos are good.
I don't know him a ton, but my sense from what I have watched is he's fairly new to the hobby. Is that?
I guess. True? I mean, it's
but
just,
I also think though, I don't want to interrupt you, Stephen, but I think it's something that we were talking about earlier about the conventions. I also think the demographics of gaming have changed. Mm-hmm. Obviously, there was always, going to Gen Con or going to a convention was always sort of a marquee thing, a niche thing. Not a lot of people can make it. But I feel like Gen Con used to occupy a much bigger part of the industry, of the community. It was like this. It was the Super Bowl of gaming in many ways. And I think as the community has grown and this new D&D community has grown, I bet you there are tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of D&D groups, not players, groups who don't even, they've never even heard of it. They don't even know what it is.
Yeah.
It's just
because of the larger number of casual players that have been added, thanks to, I would say, the major success of 5th edition was adding those casual players.
I was up at the game store the other day, and I was having, me and a buddy of mine were having a great time because we were talking about how awesome it was that we got to watch a pro tour. But Magic the Gathering had a pro tour, finally brought back the pro tour. And we were just super excited. Reed Duke won. It was awesome, right? Some kid who qualified on his phone playing Magic Gathering Arena was his competition in the finals. So it's like polar opposites, right? The old guard, the new kid. It was great. It was awesome to see Pro Tour. And there were a bunch of people there playing casual Command. And they said, we were talking about it. They said, what's the Pro Tour? So for us, it was like this watershed moment, but they didn't know what it was. They didn't care.
Well, this is what I'm concerned about. I'm concerned that someone like Bob, who has 100,000 plus viewers, is going to get suckered into this, and he's going to get wined and dined, and he's going to get sent out there.
I don't think he's going to get suckered in.
I hope. You know what?
He's being skeptical.
It's not even him. Okay, let me rephrase that.
You're using the
general,
basically
right.
What Steven is saying is Steven's gatekeeping, and he's saying these people don't have enough industry experience to know what they're getting themselves into.
No, not at all. Actually, I'm not gatekeeping. I'm just saying, be careful because
he was saying they should have invited me. That's what Steven
no. It's just like I just don't want this. I don't want it to work in the sense that they should be judged on the merits of what they're doing and not because they fly you out, give you a per diem, is going to give him hundreds if not thousands of dollars of free product. And I told you, remember when they did it to me and I didn't give them a great preview and EA was pissed at me. And I was like, well, too bad, man. What do you expect? It's like, I don't have to do anything, that comes with the territory. It's like, I'm being honest. And I just want people to be honest. That's where I just don't want this to turn into all is forgiven because they managed to wine and dine a couple of these, influencers.
I don't think it will be. Just
I don't think so either.
From the influencers who got Kyle Brinks interviewed, what I've seen from Bob is that they have skepticism, but they're willing to look at it with a skeptical, rational, and analytical view. I don't see anybody who's just was like, oh boy, Kyle Brinks said they'd come on my show, and now I'm just gonna put in the WoTC party line. That's just not what the content creators have been doing.
Right.
I agree.
That I've
No,
seen.
But at
I-
the same
I
time,
agree.
if Wizards of the Coast wasn't doing this, if Kyle Brinks wasn't going out and doing these interviews, which people are, throwing them, under buses for, if they weren't doing this content creator summit, then you'd have a community saying, why are they doing nothing? Are they just hoping this is going to go away?
Yeah, I
if
think
they just don't
that's
talk
22.
about it, right? So they're choosing the option, at least, that is more open and viable. I mean, I don't even play D&D. I don't care. Like, never play it again. I'm not trying to hide it, but or I'm not trying to support it. I'm not trying to support some corporate entity either. I'm just simply saying that I don't know what people want from them that it's going to make it better. And again, you could say nothing. My trust is broken for all time. Okay. That it doesn't matter what they do because you have moved on. So the people that they are trying to reach with this are the people who they're saying, hey, we took some actions. You all didn't like that. You responded in force and in kind, and we're going to try to be better and listen to it in the future. And
I just want the community, everyone who's getting invited to this thing, just be aware, like, they're going to go, it's going to be impressive. I guarantee it. And again, and I'm not picking on Bob, but he was like stunned they're paying for him. I'm like, yeah, they always pay for, of course, that's standard. Like, they always pay for you.
You're saying that these people are easily influenced. That's what you're saying.
No.
You're saying that they are going to be overawed.
No.
That they are just going to be so overwhelmed by the magnanimousness.
Let me tell you, when you go to these things,
Papa Wizards.
Yeah, you know what? It's impressive. It's definitely impressive. When I would go to these EA things, they would say we were in this war room. It was this amazing conference room that was like a half circle with desks of computers and gaming consoles and like monitors everywhere and this whole window. And then they would give us tons of food. I told you to bring us out to dinner. They bring us out for entertainment. We're meeting, minor celebrities. Right. You know what they did? So they had the cast of Command and Conquer, Billy D. Williams. And what's her name? Trisha from like Battlestar Galactica. I forgot her name. Helfer record intros for my show, and they sent them to me. I'm like, dude, man, this is good. They went out of their way. They go. So
would you feel better, Stephen? Would you feel better if they bought them bus tickets? They gave them a $20 Subway gift card, and
yes. I just want them to all be prepared for how amazing it's going to be and just judge the product for what it is and not the whining and dining.
Stephen, I mean, like,
I know it's hard.
You yourself sell product, right?
I know.
Like, why do you put art on the cover of a book? That doesn't measurably change the game content of the material inside of it. No, you put cool covers on cool books so that you could sell them.
You're right.
Oh, it's all marketing.
It is marketing. It's just like, I'm going to be very curious to see what they do at this conference. I'm very curious to see, because they were going to show them a lot. They're going to show them the VTT and demo it. So I'm like, okay, that's going to be pretty impressive.
It's probably whatever their next update or release that they were planning on putting out anyway.
You're completely right.
Bob is saying about them saying just share anything you want from them.
Yeah,
and it's soon. They're doing this in less than a month.
Yeah, well, I see a lot of people in chat, and I do agree with the people in chat who say that the fact that the D&D movie is dropping soon is not a coincidence.
Oh, of course.
I agree that they do. The last thing they want is this movie to somehow get some sort of, campaign against it. And I mean, there already is people who are campaigning against it, but not because it's terrible, which should be the reason why you're campaigning against it. No, you're campaigning against it because it's D&D, but I'm just curious. I already know the answer to this, so I'm just setting myself up here for disappointment. Did you see the short little clip that they showed of the D&D movie where they cast Speak with Dead? Yes. Did you like that?
I hate to say it, I kind of did. I totally saw what they were doing. It was okay, It's so manipulative, but it was freaking funny. And that always happens. Like, I'm
I
like,
know.
that hit a lot of levels. I was like, okay, that is so something that would happen in your game where everyone asks a question. It's like, you
Okay.
get 3 questions. It's like,
And
we got 3
that
questions.
is
Yes.
my biggest concern about the D&D movie. Not to go off on topic,
Dude.
is that instead of trying to make a good movie, they're trying to make a
Oh,
good
it's all quips.
they're trying to make a good
It's all
meta
quips.
movie, right? It's all
Yeah.
just meta. It's just like, oh, I know what that is.
Well,
I love this brand, right?
You know
It's
what?
just-
I saw a whole video on that. Maybe it was like Bob or movie. I forgot who it was, but someone did a whole thing on this. Is that this used to be called 80s cop movies, where in the 80s, if you had a cop movie, they would always be winking at the camera and making jokes. Now it's every movie. It used to be just a genre of movies. Now
Also-
they all do this.
Also, there's a new trailer out where they're running a gauntlet of traps. This is seeming so much like the first D&D movie. It's outrageous. It's a group of thieves, and now they got to run through a gauntlet of traps. And it's like, that first movie was horrible and bombed horribly and set
That
back
movie was
any hopes of
terrible.
that game of the D&D movie forever.
Well, that movie was just atrocious.
That movie was so bad.
Yeah.
We made fun of that movie for so long.
The
At our
sequel
gaming
actually was
table.
better. The
You
sequel
know,
was
people, that
not
was like the
bad.
wasn't that like the made for TV one though, direct to video?
It was, and it was not bad because they actually followed the rules. And they had someone who teleported in the wall, which I thought was awesome.
Respect.
So Tiger
Um,
Eyes for $2 said, beware an apple offered by a serpent on the tree. Yeah, that's exactly what I mean. It's just,
No,
yes.
they're not the serpents.
Yes,
Steven.
they are the serpent.
The serpent was offering knowledge of good and evil.
Well, they're
which is just
offering
like,
knowledge. They're offering knowledge.
I don't feel like what is this? Is this like is alignment knowledge of good and evil in this metaphor?
No, they're gonna be
Like,
they're
I
gonna be offering one D
I
and
feel
D,
like-
and they're gonna give them so much. They're gonna wine and dine them. I'm actually very curious.
I
I'm
feel
more-
like just
I can't wait to see what they
schmoozing
come up with.
people for marketing is very different than like Paradise Lost to me. Just
Yeah.
I just feel like it's just a thing that people do, and that
You're
you know
100%
that they do.
right. Look, everyone does it, but it's funny because it has, in the day and age of the internet and Zoom calls and COVID, it's gone. It's totally disappeared. And having it come back is fascinating. I don't know. I just want them to be honest. I always feel like I watch these interviews with Kyle, and I feel like they're always half truths, and they're never telling everything correct. And they're always like, "Oh yeah, it was a draft," and blah blah blah. I'm like, oh, just tell the damn truth. Just tell the truth. And
From what I understand, legally it is a draft, even though it was
I said it was. I
executable.
asked my lawyer. It's legally considered.
Illegally
anything is a draft.
They're not lying when they say it's a draft.
It wasn't-
because
Yeah, but they didn't
Even though it was
consider it a
executable.
draft. Yes, anything is a draft. As long as you can give
Okay,
feedback.
Full stop. Okay. Full stop. If a
Yes.
company, private or public, is not for profit, unless it is a not for profit, and even then you should maybe be a little bit circumspect. If a company is a for profit company, which most of them are, you should never assume that they have your best interests at heart. They don't, because they don't. They only care about you insofar as much as you are, current spending, future spending, right? Like what can you do for the company? How are you going to?
There is an exception.
Okay.
So there's my S corporation that I'm the only person who is in it, and that the profits only exist because they're then, since it's S, transferred over to me at the end of the year.
Right,
Does have my best interests at heart.
Okay, there you go. Okay.
Oh, we have 198 likes. 198. We only need 2 more. And
What's
we're gonna make
interesting
Derik do something
It's
silly.
the exception that proves the rule.
Why? Well, okay, we're gonna get off the topic. I was like, why would you do an S corp and get taxed twice?
You don't.
What? S corps?
No,
don't get
C
taxed
corps
twice.
get
Oh,
taxed.
C corps
C
get
corps
taxed.
C corps get taxed twice.
Okay, you got me. You got
S
me.
corps don't have to pay social
No.
security. or
S
Medicare.
corp
Yeah,
is
yeah,
just
yeah.
it's the same as a public. It's
Right,
same as
but S corp is the thing though, where you have to like have board meetings and minutes, and
no,
you have to
not
like pay
really.
yourself.
No,
I mean, but you have to pay yourself.
you
a
do
salary.
have to pay
You
yourself.
do have
yes.
to pay
It's
yourself
not
a salary. In
yeah,
fact-
right.
in
It's
fact,
not passed through.
paying yourself a salary
Yeah.
is an advantage, because otherwise
It's- you
everything
want
is
an
your
S corp.
salary and you pay a lot more.
Yeah, if you
Correct,
don't. You want an
correct.
S corp over an LLC. Whenever you want.
100%.
Yes,
But I thought
yes.
I had read that you didn't want to do that unless you were making like, and
No.
at least
No, there. It's
40,
just it's
$50,000.
more. It's
No,
more.
Derek, you're right. If you're not making more than an amount that you can give yourself as a salary, there's no point because you'll have to give it all as the salary anyway.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah, no,
okay.
no. You definitely want an S corp if you could afford it. It's a little bit more expensive to manage and maintain, and it's definitely more expensive with accounting. But if you're making even the small amount of decent money, you want an S corp.
Yeah. Well, luckily, having just completed the taxes for tonight's last call, I can happily say that in the last 2 years we have made $0.
You didn't
It takes
lose money?
me. It takes me like a
Oh,
month
no,
to do
okay,
my taxes.
no. The first year we
no.
lost a ton of money.
Okay.
Oh.
But my goal last year was to break even, and I think we ended up
So-
making like
Ti-
150 bucks,
Tiger
200
Eyes,
bucks.
$2 more. When Cain stabs you, then offers you apple. Beware. Oh
It's
my
very-
God, we got 100 likes just by saying that. You know what? We need more likes. If we get 300 likes, we'll make them do. So, what
No.
is the weird thing you're going to do, Derek?
I have nothing to do. You
No,
guys
you have
got
lots of weird things.
you have gotten everything out of me.
Boy, I
We have
guarantee-
277 likes though.
Well, look, you sang when you were a very good singer when you were singing Les Mis as was it one you did as Kermit and one you did as someone else? I forgot who
I
you
did
it.
do a Kermit the Frog one. Yes,
The Kermit,
but,
the Les Mis stuff is really good.
but I love musicals. What can I say?
I
all
love
musical.
musicals
Well, I know
too.
we're all three of us are.
we,
all,
I'm a hu- I just saw Some Like It Hot on Broadway. Fantastic, by the way.
Classic.
I loved
Definitely a
loved
classic.
it. I thought it was
Definitely.
excellent. I saw
All right, Stephen, we
Six
can't get
recently.
listen. We're getting off the topic here.
Okay, I know. I mean,
right.
I can talk about musicals all day. I love musicals.
But yeah, so I guess
Wait.
here's the thing.
What are we gonna do? You gotta do something
No.
goofy. You gotta do something silly. Come on, Derek.
I have nothing to do.
Yes,
here.
you do. Okay, tell us about your favorite archetype in Pathfinder
That's a great
using
question.
a silly voice. So
a
far,
silly- Oh my gosh.
and you can promote yourself while we're doing it. Everyone wins. You get to promote what you've been doing, and we
All
get
right.
to hear you do something silly.
Well, my favorite archetype is probably the Marshal
That's not a
because
silly voice.
I don't have a silly voice. There we go. My favorite archetype is probably the Marshal because it reminds me of the 4th edition's Warlord, and I really enjoy that class. It's an interesting archetype that allows you in Pathfinder 2 to play more into the teamwork elements than many of the other archetypes. I miss teamwork feats, even though I don't feel like they were all very good in Pathfinder 1, but the Marshal really adds to that, and I really appreciate that, especially as a class that can bring sort of spellcaster-like buffs, even though it is martially oriented.
What? Cheerio.
What? Cheerio. There we go.
was
But no,
pretty
Marshall's
good.
great.
That was very good. My son used to do British accents, and he would talk in a British accent so much that when he went to camp, all the counselors are British, and they were always impressed. They were like, "Oh, your accent's so good," and he got really good with his British accent.
Here, as people were saying, I went Kermit.
You
Yeah,
went Kermit, then British.
It went a little.
British Kermit.
It was British Kermit. It's the tea sipping Kermit. No, here are the current S tier archetypes from our rankings. Champion, Beastmaster,
Yep.
Medic.
I love Beastmaster. I love Medic. Yeah, Medic's really good.
Yeah, so Champion, Beastmaster, Medic, Psychic,
Oh, I love Psychic.
Thaumaturge,
Yep. Yep.
Student of Perfection.
I don't know that one.
We were just talking about it before the,
Oh, right,
the show.
Yeah.
But those are like the 6 mechanically minded archetypes that we
Medic
think
is
are S tier.
insane, by the way.
Then for flavor, because we do have some archetypes that we go, look, we agree that these might be mechanically powerful, but really it's all about like delivering flavor. Bellflower Tiller, S tier. Chrono Skimmer, speaking of time,
Oh yeah.
S tier.
Yeah.
Luis Loza.
Exorcist, S tier. Pact Binder, Sleepwalker, Ghost, Night Reclaimant, and Last Wall Sentry. So
There we go. I wrote one of those.
All right.
Here ones.
that's fantastic. Well, you know what? Good job. Which one?
The Pathfinder was written like during the copy fit of Dark Archive to like pull some pact feats out of the thaumaturge and put them somewhere else. Anywhere else.
We have 299
Uh,
likes. We get one more, and we can do something else silly.
You know, I see people talking in chat. I will say that I literally said this the other day. I don't remember where I said it. I think I said it in my Discord. I said, the only thing consistent about my accents is their inconsistency.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So
There you
wait,
go.
let's get back to topic. So I guess it comes down to the phase 2 they're starting. Let me back up. First of all, anyone, if you have any questions, super chat, we'll answer them right away. You could also just do regular chat if we see
I've
them.
been looking for questions.
Yeah,
if
you do regular chat, we
like,
might not get all of them, but we'll definitely try to answer.
I feel like
any
chat is
questions.
talking among the chatters, and it's a really good
Oh,
conversation.
here's one for
in
you,
there,
Mark.
But Maceman 94 for 99 says, "Don't know if you know, Mark. Is there a reason PF2 doesn't have drow ancestry besides some of the problematic things? If orcs could have a retribution, why not drow? Amy chances for the future." So, like, honestly, you could use if you want, use the cavern elf heritage, and you'd probably be able to do okay there. But like, just in general, there's just always kind of, I feel like there's been a feeling at Paizo of like drow being something that like D&D uses a lot. It's kind of very associated with, like, you know, Salvatore, Drizzt,
They
those
had
kind of
the
things.
entire
Plus, it
drow.
also has the problematic elements that you talked about. So there's never really, I felt, been like a huge enthusiasm to go deep into lots of drow stuff for that reason. When you combine the fantasy racism aspects with the like that, it's really more associated with D&D. So I feel like that, I mean, that's not an official reason, but those are like part of reason. Those lower the temperature and enthusiasm, and temperature and enthusiasm are important towards what gets covered more.
I don't want to interrupt real quick. They did do Second Darkness, which was one of the very first adventure paths ever, and that was like underground drow setting.
Yeah.
It was not a popular AP either.
Well, it wasn't well written.
It was not it's not drow's fault.
It was not well written.
It was a bait and switch AP where they're like, build pirates who don't care about anybody else and just want to be pirates. And then they're like, okay, now the elves who are being jerks to you need help, and you need to selflessly help them.
You know, the bait and switch AP is kind of pretty common problem there, I would say. I mean,
I hate to say it, it kind of
Extinction
is.
Curse is kind
Extinction
of
Curse is the most. That is the number one example of a bait and switch, because it's like it's all about circuses. It's 1% about circuses.
right, exactly. No, I
wait,
was
we got
just
a question
remembering.
here, but after you go first, and we'll answer this question.
No, I was just thinking. We have a tendency to, a lot of times when we play campaigns, we create a campaign world collaboratively first. We usually use some form of game like Microscope, or we use a game like Dawn of Worlds, or we use a bunch of other stuff to build an entirely new campaign world from scratch. We don't really usually use pre-existing campaign worlds. Anyways, so we were building this one campaign. The last time we did this, I remember we ended up with we wanted there to be drow in the game, but in our game, the drow were these heroic elves that actually were like super allies of the dwarves, and they went into the depths of the earth because that's like kind of, I guess it's pretty common in a lot of things. There was like, you know, ancient evil bound in the center of earth, and so like the abominations and the aberrations, we kind of stole it from Eberron a little bit, but abominations, aberrations were coming up from the center of the earth. The drow were actually these like chaos Cthulhu hunters, and they, you know, gave up, you know, they became dark of skin so that they could blend in with their environment. So
I will tell you the ones that are not bait and switch is not Extinction Curse. I meant, yeah, that's what
Abomination Vaults.
Abomination Vaults.
I always get those two.
Yeah, that's not a bait and switch. Iron Gods, totally not a bait and switch. That one is very consistent from beginning to end. That's probably one of my. I'd say that's
most of them are not.
That's really good. That's a very, very, very well designed AP. And my new favorite, Agents of Edgewatch, which I think is absolutely fantastic. I know it's the lowest rated one. I love it.
I always heard, I've heard a lot of people have a problem with Agents of Edgewatch because
it's one of the lower ranked.
I know.
Ones.
Yeah,
Steven really likes it.
I love it. We all do. We all love it. Why is it lower ranked?
My understanding is because number one, it I guess it's like it still has core tropes of fantasy expectations, which is that you're gonna, you know, basically you have to kill people and take their loot.
Nope.
But
okay, you're 100% right. I wrote new rules to take care of that.
But see, that's the thing about APs that I find very interesting, and I don't want to give us on too long of an aside because we do have a super chat and some other questions. But it's very interesting to me, and I'm not sure what it means about the industry as a whole and fans in a rule book or in a organized play scenario where you have to play it as written. If you make like a mistake where the thing doesn't work mechanically, that's it. You're gonna get dragged. You're gonna get 1-star reviews in an organized play scenario for even like a small thing, or if it just doesn't jive and you're forced to do something problematic. In APs, though, APs get a lot of a pass, a lot more of a pass in reviews for like, oh yeah, I did have that, but we came up with a house rule that avoided it.
Well,
like more so than any other product that Paizo puts out, even from the same fan base and the same reviewers. And I find that interesting. I don't like. There's not a problem with it per se. I'm just, I guess it means something about what those products mean. The rule books and the organized play scenarios feel like they just have to work. I think
there's an easy way around that. Do what we did with Jewel the Indigo Isles, is you put in 50,000 variants and lots of options, and no one can say anything bad because we give you every way to play it you could ever want.
Right, it's official, unofficial.
Well, it's official. We actually give you the rules. We do it on purpose because we want you to play it your way. And we give out, like, there's some pretty nasty content in some of that book. And we have lots of ways. Not only do we have content warnings, but we have ways for you to make it less nasty. So we have it both ways. Bookworm Beth,
I think,
wrote, Derik, what do you expect from WoTC?
That's a great question. What do I expect from WoTC? I mean, I'm assuming on the D&D front.
Now, let's talk about Nerf.
Or they even said, "What did you expect from WoTC?" So, like, in terms of like, what did you expect them to do?
Sorry, what did you expect? Let's talk about Nerf and Transformers and My Little Pony. Now, I expected. Okay.
Listen. What did I expect from Wizards?
Because they're not WoTC.
I expected. I got to be honest with you. I think they've mishandled the brand. I mean, I like
you think?
Well, I'm not even talking about this new stuff. I'm not even talking about the OGL. I just think
I 100% agree.
I think they have no idea what to do with Dungeons and Dragons. That's what I think.
Nope.
If you want to be told, that's what I think.
You have no idea.
I think this game became successful, and I don't think anyone there knows why. And I think that they felt the need to keep publishing books, and they had no idea what to print.
Yep.
And I've heard people panning the last dozen releases or so from Wizards, because certainly the last couple. I've heard that Dragonlance was not very good. Everyone famously knows that Spelljammer wasn't very good. I think the jury's still out on this Keys of the Golden, whatever it's called.
I heard that got medium reviews so far. I've heard it's okay.
It seems to me like they are. There's a very famous. It's a joke card, but it from Magic the Gathering. It's called "Haha, look at me, I'm the DCI" or something like that. And it's them blindfolded throwing darts at a dartboard, trying to determine which cards to ban to balance the game. And the idea being that, like, I think Wizards of the Coast is just guessing. I don't think that they have understood their game, their customers. I think they hear people saying, "We hate your game, you need to fix it," and then they get another month of record sales. I just think they have no idea what is going on with their company. And I think a lot of the things that you're seeing, the disconnects between management and designers, the disconnect between the company and the community, the whole way this OGL debacle even unfolded is because fundamentally, from top to bottom, people don't understand how this game works. And I think part of the biggest light bulb of this, I mean, this freaks people out all the time with Pathfinder 2. People talk about we're kind of pro theater of the mind here, and a lot of people are like, you couldn't play Pathfinder 2 theater of the mind, and we go, Mark does, Jason does, like on his own stream or on his Knights of Everflame or whatever it was called. They do theater of the mind, and everyone's like, how is that even possible? And so, like, when people are like so obsessed with like the rules of D&D, and then they see, Chris Perkins running a game or something like that, and he's just like, just free balling it basically, and just completely playing it off the cuff, and he's making stuff up left and right, and he's coming up with stuff on the table, and everyone's like, that's not how the game works. It's like there is a fundamental disagreement between how this brand and game and everything is being viewed and seen and managed, and nobody at Wizards of the Coast has a beat on that.
Well, it comes down, first, I 1000% agree with you. It comes down to the fact. And you know what I just watched over the weekend? I watched on Amazon. It was like The Art of Dungeons and Dragons. It's a documentary that came out a couple of years ago.
Okay.
And it was interviewing everyone at TSR and how it's fascinating because they had to invent the whole fantasy genre style. And because of everything they did, now there's so much fantasy artwork but they really had to invent it, and they had nothing to even use as like references. And they're talking to all the original artists, and it's very interesting to have them talk about, like, in the 70s, back in the 70s, everything's hand painted. Like, okay, draw this. Like, well, what is this? We can't just find it. There's no internet. It's like, just have to imagine it. And everything was coming out of their brains. And nowadays, there's thousands of references, and this is established. I always find it fascinating that because of D&D, pretty much everything in gaming, including video games, is because of Dungeons and Dragons. All the classes, all the alignments, all the attributes, hit points, the concept of the word level. Okay, level, all this, everything has their DNA because of D&D. And I feel like these people, when you watch a documentary, trust me, I'm getting to a point. When you watch this documentary, they're living and breathing it. Like, this was their life. It wasn't even their job. This was their life. And they were talking about how they were so lucky and they loved working there and they just loved doing this and they couldn't believe this is what they get to do. And they would just sit around just joking like, wow, can you believe this? Can you believe we're getting paid to draw pictures of dragons? And it feels like the people now, not the creative people, the people, but we don't hear from those people. Like, we're hearing from the corporate people. And as you said, the corporate people have no idea what's going on. These are people from, they're from Microsoft. These are people who are treating this as a blue sky product. Like, they're trying to make this something it's not. They're trying to turn this into a commodity with the D&D licensing and brand on it. Well, and that's what I feel like. And now they're trying to bring people in and they're going to wine and dine them, but really, are they? I don't know. It's going to be very weird to see how this goes.
We did have a super chart. Somebody,
we had great role playing. Debbie, $5 said, "Take my money." Hey guys, I also saw one question. I see another super chat too.
Brand new for you,
Alexander
Mark.
Drake for $5 said, "Currently playing a Terra Kineticist." Hey Mark, and Void got Void to be added in. Still wish Kineticist got more love. I think that Pathfinder 1 Kineticist did get a pretty decent amount. We got more love than I expected it to get for a class that came out so late in the game. It was extremely popular for how late
in the game.
Late in the game, Pathfinder 1 Kineticist,
Many meanings there. Look at that.
What do you think? You thought it was in the second half of Pathfinder 1.
I know, but it was. It's just funny how you got the.
Fair enough.
I think one of the things that I think that the hobby is struggling with is there's a bit of a false narrative, I think, and I don't. I'm going to sound gatekeepy, but I don't mean to sound gatekeepy, which is this: they want to productize the D&D experience. I would even argue Paizo wanted to productize the Pathfinder experience. They want to be able to sell you essentially an error-proof, a dummy-proof game, a consistency of experience. From my channel, Bob, not Bob the World Builder, Bob, he is an architect and he works predominantly on McDonald's. And he says McDonald's, they want every building to be that they want when you walk into a McDonald's, a brand new one, you know where to go. You know where the bathrooms are. You know where the counter is. You can get the same fries in a San Diego McDonald's as you could in a Beijing McDonald's, right? They want a consistent experience. And I feel like that is good for not only the brand and marketing and selling, but also this idea that, like, we want everybody to enjoy what Dungeons and Dragons or whatever has to offer. But the truth of the matter is, this is very much an individualistic hobby, and it relies on the players and the GMs, and it's not something that you can package and just deliver to somebody, right? This isn't like, there's this idea that, like, can we Blue Apron this, right? Can we sell people the ingredients and then they're going to cook a master class meal every time? No, I don't think you can. And I think that there's a lot of skill, and I think some people don't have it. They're to running a good game. I think there's a lot of skill that goes into being a good player. Not everybody has it. That doesn't mean you shouldn't play. I'm simply saying that there is this desire by the powers that be, and I think even to a certain extent, the game designers, to sort of commoditize the experience and to say, we can guarantee a delivered experience.
I don't really necessarily think the game designers want to do that. If they did, they wouldn't have gone for rulings over rules, right?
Maybe you're right there. Yes, okay. But I see. But see, that's funny, Mark, though, because the people, the consumer, seem to hate that.
Oh, I didn't say that the consumers liked it either. I'm saying that the game designers,
right? Which would
specifically
imply
the game designers.
Okay, no, and I think that's an important part, though, Mark, because one of the things that people have been saying is, no, it's the management that's out of touch. And I'm trying to say, I think the designers are out of touch as well. I think the management's out of touch too, to be clear. But I do think the designers are out of touch. I think that the way that they imagine the way that people are playing D&D isn't even close to the way that most people are playing D&D. I think that when you're sitting in Renton, Washington, and you're at your table is 950 years of combined industry experience, and everybody has got multiple publishing credits to your game, and you're all playing, and you're playing with a game master who's literally wrote the book. The game experience that you're going to get out of that versus the game experience that somebody, wants to pick up a basic box off the shelf or wants to start running a game, like those people want to find answers. They want these clear-cut things. And then I think the designers refuse to give it to them because they say, no, because if we give you those answers, you will never get to the game that we're playing. And we want you to get to the game that we're playing. And we won't do that if we tell you what to do.
I think that there are parts of what you're saying that from my experience are right, but there are parts that I disagree with. I think that it's less of the way you just described it at the end is more of like an intentional, no, we're not going to give you what you want. Whereas I think that a lot of designers, just not out of malice or any problem with it, they just don't necessarily know what a lot of people want, because you would need a data gathering arm of your company that is working together well with the game designer part of your company that not every company can have beyond certain limited playtest questions. And so I've definitely saw it, especially when I transitioned from a hardcore fan into the industry, of things that like people who were in the industry were doing. I'm like, listen, I got to the maximum number of stars from running games for a variety of different groups in Pathfinder First Edition because I ran over 150 tables for different groups. I've seen a lot of tables. I can tell you that people are looking for that thing. And, people will be like, I don't know, they might not be looking for that. But then I gave some examples. They'd be, oh, okay, well then in that case, we'll do it. So I think it's more of just like, if the first half of what you were saying, Derik, which is if you're at the table and you're in the company, you're not necessarily out there playing with hundreds of different groups and seeing what they're doing. And less of a, oh, we know you're struggling, but you'll never make it to our point if we don't.
I don't know if there's that sort of paternalistic attitude of like, you got to let them fall on their bike. I don't know if that's necessarily the point, but I guess maybe there's a group of people, maybe even the designers, I would argue, one of the first things that I always hear people say all the time with Pathfinder 2 is like, I'm more familiar with Pathfinder 2 than 5e, but like, it's when they'll be shocked when they hear that, like, you, Mark, oh, I changed that rule. I don't use that rule. Like I house ruled that. And they're like, how is that possible? You're the one who wrote the rules. And I feel like a lot of people have like a knee-jerk reaction to that. You wouldn't
get to designing the rules if you weren't someone who was going to do that.
Agreed. I know. That's the beautiful thing about it. But it's like, it's this idea that D&D and Pathfinder are more than just, it's not a video game, right? I can't go to the store and buy it and stick it into my console or download it and stick it into my console and then get this homogenous experience.
And even if you have a video game, do you play Skyrim with no mods?
I don't play Skyrim, but
neither do I. But so I therefore don't play it with no mods. But most people, Linda plays it and she plays with mods. So
well, right, and those are the tools for people who are in the know to make and change the game to the experience that they want. And to my opinion, that is the great strength of the tabletop role playing game system. But I also feel like you have a community which, quite frankly, has been, I don't know, let down. They don't like they don't have whatever that is that makes a dungeon master or a game master able to, they want all the answers. I feel like they want everything to be black and white, clear cut. Here's what you do. Here's what you don't do. And they want it to be true every time. And they want to have this commoditized experience. And
we've talked about this
So we
a
have
lot.
a couple
Wait, I want to
pending
get to
super
that,
chats.
and then we'll get to, let me just 5 seconds, and we'll get to the super chats. We talked about this, and we probably should do a whole chapter on this. Being a very good DM is incredibly hard and requires massive amounts of skill sets that have nothing to do with gaming. It's incredibly difficult, and like anything, you can learn, and it's something you have to get better at. And I guarantee I am 1,000 times better as a DM or GM now than I was 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago. Like, and I will probably keep getting better.
Starts good at
no
it.
one. Yeah, no one starts
It's my
good.
anti-gatekeeping comment.
Yeah.
Start. Even if you're worried you're not good enough, start. You will get better. That's the only way to get better.
And now it's to the point that I have seen, like, when they're always like, well, when they do this, when they do this, when they do this, I'm like, I've seen so many games. I know exactly how to handle these things because it's come up before. So we can easily deal with these problem people. But that's the problem, is that they're coming out with these games and they are just throwing so much stuff at the wall, hoping something sticks. And I think they literally want people to buy stuff and not play it. I know that sounds crazy, but that's
and there's a degree of customers who do that.
Oh, it's not
for sure.
small. It's not small.
Let's get to those super chats.
So for $5, I said, great guest. Thanks for great content hosting. Also important, you fostered a great community here and on Discord. Thank you and all the TTRPG peeps. Tease of Ages for $10 said, I feel like a lot of poor reviews on D&D 5e books is because they keep selling adventures as setting books. Strixhaven, Spelljammer, Dragonlance, all closer to Paizo APs than to Paizo Lost Omens line. And then Antonio Gabriel Montes for 225, what is ARS again? Is it Argentine? Said, do you think the want for homogenization gave rise to dungeon crawler board games in recent years, such as Gloomhaven, Descent, and Massive Darkness? I think to an extent, the desire to be able to run homogeneously, not have a GM, just get it through. Yeah.
That's
why those are popular.
I am like the biggest. I play all those games. I love them. I know.
I love all.
I know. Well, because I've talked. What's his name? Rob Lobb. Is that his name? The guy who invented Risk Legacy. So they did a study. Let me tell you how this came about. They did a study at Hasbro, and they did all this time to figure out what was the people's favorite part about playing a game. And they said, unpacking the game. That was like the number one by about. It was like basically opening it up. That was like by the very top, and everything else was way at the bottom.
That new board game smell is hard to beat.
But you know what? Just opening. So they're like, oh, let's come out. So they came out with the Risk Legacy. That's the first Legacy game ever. And oh my God, I still love that game. And it's like that whole thing of like, you open things up and you put stickers and everything changes. And it's just like, it just keeps the excitement level so high. And then you got Pandemic Legacy came out, and then you have all these other games, and then there was a lot of these Legacy games. By the way, not all of them are that good. There's a lot of bad ones out there too. Gloomhaven was that's the Magic the Gathering of gaming. It's like one person designed the whole thing more or less.
Yep.
They sold it pretty cheap, $100 for that monster, and it has billions of hours of play in it, and it's not perfect, but damn, it's pretty close. And you can see where so much is now being built on top of that structure. But it's D&D.
For a lot of people it is, and it's interesting because, like, again, Magic the Gathering, in my opinion, and most people's opinion,
Rob
is
Duvall.
the greatest card game ever. But it's not perfect. It's messy. because it relies on variance.
And the mana system, yeah, terrible.
Right, exactly, the mana system. And so
terrible.
You get games where nothing happens because you didn't draw the right balance of land and spells, and then the game ends. And people have for years tried to fix that, and they make new games, and they're not as good because there's something inherent in that chaos that leads to the outcomes that you want to have. And
well,
I just think that, like, you know, there's such a strong desire from, and this isn't like a generational thing. I'm not shitting on like Zoomers or something, but like, I think a lot of people don't want to put in the sweat equity. And I think there's actually two parts to that. One is when I started playing D&D, when you started playing D&D, when you all, both of you started playing D&D, I knew like my cousin's game. I'd play it in that. And then I started running a game. I had no other experience with D&D. When you come into the game now, you just said, Stephen, you're 100 times the GM you were 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. Well, you can go watch UGM. You can go watch Critical Role, Dimension 20, Adventure Time. You can watch people who literally have decades of experience running games, playing games with players who have decades of experience, maybe running their own games. We have this kind of cognitive bias of what we think D&D should look like, or what a game should look like. And I think people are bringing that to their table, and they go, I want the company, I want the game system that can deliver that. And if they do deliver that, I will reward them with my money time and time again.
Well,
and I think that's what the designers and the management at Wizards of the Coast has been chasing, is how do we prepackage the D&D experience, almost like a Gloomhaven, where it's like, well, you don't have to worry if your GM sucks, and you don't have to worry if you don't really know how the game works. We've got things that'll take care of that for you.
That's called the One D&D VTT, which is going to be a video game. They're making this totally. They don't want GMs anymore, or DMs. I've been saying it for a while now. It's like when this comes out. Notice, by the way, when they said they were inviting Bob, they were like, we're going to show you, I think it was the first thing they said. It's like, we're going to show you the VTT.
They said that first.
Right. And then they're like, oh, and by the way, we're also showing you One D&D. But we're showing you the VTT. I'm like, that is, again, it's the subconscious. I'm like, because that's what they really care about, man.
Speaking of your predictions, Steven, someone in chat asked, Steven, wasn't like schmoozing with creators one of the suggestions you had back when you were saying what you would have done if you were in charge of dealing with their PR disaster?
Yes, they did exactly. Remember, I did a video of what I would do, and they actually are starting to go down the checklist. And I was amazed. I'm like, this is exactly what you should do. You're 100% right. I did the video of how to do it, and I used an example. So let me repeat myself, because this is a very good example. When World of Warcraft first came out, and back in the day, there was Asheron's Call, there was Dark Age of Camelot,
DAC was legit.
Oh, God, that was so good. There was EverQuest, and now EverQuest was God back then. And EverCrack. I mean, it was God. And they had huge guilds. So what did Wizards do? What did Blizzard do when they were about to launch World of Warcraft? They invited the top guilds, like the top 50 guilds in the world, not in the United States, in the world. And they flew them all out to Irvine. They sat them down, and let me tell you, the Blizzard offices back then were garbage, but they still brought them out there, and they showed them World of Warcraft, and then more importantly, sat down with them, and they said, check it out, and here's all the tools that we're going to have for you so you can run and manage your guilds. What more do you want? Because we're going to add it to the game. And they did. And then they also sent them these amazing like packages and these gold invitations, and they were like written in calligraphy and like inviting them and their guild to play World of Warcraft. So what happens is they bring them, they wine them, they dine them, they schmooze them, they show them exactly what the game is, they figure out how to add more tools to it. So what happens when World of Warcraft launches? Every single one of those guilds said goodbye to EverQuest, hello World of Warcraft. They moved their entire guilds over to World of Warcraft, and it worked. And it was a superb way to do it. I am very, very curious because that's exactly what I said I would do. If I was in charge, I would be flying people out and I would be doing the wining and dining and I would be doing the schmoozing and I would be doing all that stuff. So, yeah, I would love to. Where was I invited? Would I go to WoTC if I was invited? Yeah. Of course I would. You better believe I would go. They will never invite me.
In fact,
but I would go. And I would be actually, if I went, let me just quick, I'd be totally neutral. I would be totally neutral. And I've been to enough of these things that I like, if they did something really impressive, I will say this was impressive and why it was impressive. Not because they wined and dined us and gave us $1,000 worth of free stuff. I say this is impressive because it solves these problems. Or this is an issue with gaming and it looks really impressive from a game design point of view. That's how I would love to go. Trust me,
of course.
I would go in a second.
Yeah, but see, I would be neutral too. But Stephen, their incentive is to try to find people
Of course.
who
That's why I'm worried.
Who could be easily manipulated.
That's why I'm
not who would be
worried.
manipulated, but the people who would be less neutral.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But their ideal would be someone who would be viewed as neutral, but who might not be, but
All right,
might
well,
be more willing to not be neutral. But I think like the people I've heard that they're bringing in, like Bob, the world builder, I think Bob World Builder showed that he was skeptical. Like he made an analysis of the video he shot with Kyle Brinks, and I think he'll be able to do it. But their best targets are the ones.
He's also marketing, right? I think he understands that his audience, maybe the wider audience, the last thing they want is sycophants who are, just kind of sucking up to WoTC. I think this might be how he legitimately feels, so I don't want to put words in his mouth, but it is probably to his benefit financially, and at least as a channel success, to be somewhat cynical or cautious or cagey, because I think that's what his audience expects of him. I don't think being a WoTC fanboy is going to win you very many views or fans or subs right now.
I mean, I feel like he's being genuine when he said that he was on the hype train for one D&D, and now
he said, "quote before."
Yes, he said before that he was, and now he isn't. But he still loves 5e, and he said that he assumes he's gonna like one D&D because it's similar to 5e, which he liked before, but that it feels more like work to follow all their updates for it now for him.
Crazy
I
Joe,
believe him about that.
Crazy Joe Lowe.
I saw that message.
Yeah, Bob the World Builder is lovely. He's a great guy. They'll eat him for breakfast. Dude, I can't say anything. I want Bob to do some, I swear to God, I would love it if he did some media training before he went to this thing. And
let the man just go and enjoy it.
God, I just don't want, I want them all. Let me rephrase this.
Not everyone. I mean, it would be great if everybody took media training.
I know.
If that was like a class in school.
No, seriously. You need to know these tricks. There's these tricks they're going to do.
Steven wants them to go to some CIA anti-mind control training.
That'd be great.
He wants to
but let me ask you.
He wants to develop their
I think Mark would be totally fine. I think I would be fine. Derik, how skeptical? I mean, you're so skeptical on your own channel. You look at you.
You would be like,
you would be their worst nightmare.
They wouldn't.
The steak that they bought me, I'm gonna rate it with a D because it tastes really good.
Oh, that's right.
But,
you would do.
I tried
Okay,
to
let me go
stab
through.
a vampire that came at us with that steak, and it did not do as much DPR as the wooden steak that I brought with me.
Yes. Right. I'm like, what are we even doing here if we're not? And that is why I would never get invited to anything like this. But I mean, but to that point, Stephen.
Yes.
If you had sent someone a bunch of Battle Zoo stuff and they had just shit all over it, would you send them your next Year of Monsters release? Would you send them Jewel of the Indigo Isle? Would you?
Actually, it's a good question. So if they had legitimate I'll give you an example, a real world example from you. Who was it? It wasn't, who was it on the show that you had issue with the way we did the layout?
Bob.
Bob. So Bob had an issue that we did.
Not the way you did the layout. There was just one entry.
One entry. It was the only entry that we had to spread on 2 pages. And after I heard that, I was like, that is a legitimate concern.
Yeah,
and then
I break a step block across spreads. You just shouldn't.
You're right. And I went back and I fixed it.
Sure, Steven, but that was a concern in an extremely positive review from a channel that reviews almost everything negative.
You know
That's
what?
a big difference between that. If they did a thing,
No,
if the
wait,
first
let me-
time
wait,
you
wait,
met,
wait, wait.
you
Exactly.
learned about Knights of the Last Call was not an A
If
rating,
they-
but it was like F.
Correct.
If they gave an F
Battlezoo
rating,
bestiary, how about Battlezoo worstiary?
Well, if
this
they
is the
had-
worst book I've ever read. Do you think Derik would be on the show right now? I don't
Right.
think he would.
I don't think I would. And you know what? And I'm
You're
not
probably
mad
right.
about that. Right? Like, I'm not mad about that. I mean, because that makes sense. You know.
Yeah.
And also, by the way, you're not necessarily saying, like, you might even say you're not wrong. That book, that vibe doesn't work with you. People were very upset at
we
me
get that. We get
that
vibe
I didn't
stuff
like,
all the time.
that we didn't like Monsters of Myth. And I was like, yeah, I didn't like it. I mean, what do you want me to say?
I didn't like it either.
I didn't like
I didn't like it
Oh,
either.
I
God.
love Monsters of Myth.
Right now, and that's my
Well, I
point.
didn't like it because of the. I didn't like it because it wasn't what I thought it was. I thought it was going to be a splat book and not a lore book. That's why.
Correct. But outside
It's
of
in
that,
the Lost Omen slide.
Yeah,
but
well, still.
that could be a little bit of a murky area.
Yeah,
I wish they would
still.
actually firm that up a little bit more. But my point is, it just people were very mad that I had an opinion of that. I disliked something that they liked, and people have a problem with that. People don't like negative reviews. I mean,
You know what? I think of Ben Franklin. He used to say, "Be friends with your enemies," and suddenly, like if you become friendly with your enemy, it's hard for them to hate you.
Right.
Because why would you be friendly with them? And you know
Well-
what? That's why you're here, Derik.
Right. Well, Tony Stark said, "Keep your friends rich and your enemies rich, and wait to find out which is which."
There you go.
So wait, we got some super chats, but
Yeah,
look,
Rich
if they had
Sherman
legitimate
34
reasons
for $20 said shout out for Knights of Last Call.
Yes.
But then on the opposite end, great role playing Debbie for $5 Australian said giving you money for disagreeing with Derik. Keep at the good work.
Yes, that's
By,
right.
by the way, to be clear, great role playing Debbie also tipped us something like $50 so that we'd make a zebra wrangler archetype in our final.
Fair
zebras are
enough.
impossible. They're terrible.
That is why
Terrible.
we are making a zebra wrangler archetype.
Because
You would
they're
need
they're
one.
prey,
Like, I don't
so they're
think the regular
always.
Beastmaster
That's
is gonna
right.
be enough
You
to
can't-
wrangle a zebra.
No,
This
no,
literally
zebras are
came
terrible.
up this literally came up during the Beastmaster
Yeah.
review.
Yeah.
And we were talking about, we're like, well, the Beastmaster could tame anything. And they were like, could it tame a zebra? And so then it became this whole big thing.
So
about,
I suggest that the zebra wrangler requires Beastmaster dedication.
Actually, wait.
Oh.
Wait, we got a
specialized
good
feats.
question here. Soda Saint Commentaries wrote, I think Steven is honestly a good actor who doesn't want to see the young hands taken advantage or manipulated by the old hands. Man knows his stuff. That is absolutely correct. I just want everyone to be on the same playing field. And I don't want them, you know what? Because it's so different. If you were brought to Gen Con and you're wined and dined in Gen Con, which happens,
Yep.
it's different because you're all in this amazing experience. And it's just this,
Right.
it's very different doing it at Gen Con. Being flown out, wined and dine, it's a whole lot, it's not even a whole other level. It's like 3 levels past. It's like, it's impressive. No matter how negative and how guarded you want to be, it's freaking awesome when they do it, and it's hard to say something negative. It's also subconsciously, you probably won't be able to say something negative, or if it's just too hard because you feel like you owe them, if you feel like, okay, they've paid all this money and they spend like 10 grand on me and they were so nice to me. How can I possibly say bad things about them, And it's like, it's very hard to do. And I'm not saying them, I'm saying anyone. I'm saying even you, Derik.
Depends on the person.
I think
Listen.
it's going to be hard.
Do not believe the man who tells you that they are above influence.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
In fact, they're probably the most gullible, right? Because
Yeah.
they're not aware of their own biases. They're not aware of the things that can be used to manipulate and entreat them. Also, what a biggest thing it does, you know what it does? It humanizes people. It humanizes people. It's easy to throw WoTC down into an oubliette because, they did these horrible things and it's some faceless, it's the WoTC.
Right.
But when suddenly it's
Steven just saying, he doesn't believe Kyle, but imagine that you get called in and you sit there and Kyle breaks down crying at the table, talking about how upset it was and how much he really was honest about it. And you can get the sense that he's telling the truth. And you get to know him and you're like,
right now
maybe it seemed disingenuous in the video, but I really think
Exactly.
he really feels that way. And it's not even that you were being manipulated. It's just that, like you said, it's humanizing.
Yeah.
It looks like we got
we got a
super
big
chat.
one. A big
50
purple
Australian
super
dollars, great
chat.
role playing Debbie. I'd be happy to spend to get a roll for combat zebra ancestry. My whole character will be zebra. Okay, well, Steven, that sounds like we're going to have to at some point do an awakened animal so that
Great role-playing
Debbie can do a
Debbie.
zebra.
Guess what? You got it.
We're going to do it.
We're going to do it.
At some
2024.
point.
But we're going to do it. It's actually, if you go to the Discord channel, here's a bit of a, so the Year of Monsters has been a massive success, to say the least. And I definitely want to continue doing it. And so we started to look at new ancestries, and I asked the people on the Discord, the Roll for Combat Discord, which you can find at discord.rollforcombat.com, and I asked them, what do you want to see? And they answered pretty much every single monster in every every bestiary ever.
Yeah, everything ever. But Awakened Animal
they were
was
like,
on there
we
a
want to see
decent amount.
everything. I'm like, okay, well, but Awakened Animal was definitely in the top 3.
That was one of my guesses for what would be most popular, and it was. So that's why I'm saying we're going to do it.
You have to
probably.
say something. What's something that did happen that was insanely freaky is I gave a list of the ancestries that I wanted to do, and then within like 5 minutes of me putting on the post, someone wrote the list. It was almost identical.
Yeah.
Steven
and I combined our things, and they even had one very obscure ask that
was weird.
Was on the other list. It was,
we thought
like, are they hacking Steven's computer?
Did he hack us? Because it was almost identical. I was like, okay, that was weird.
So I want to circle back to something Derik said though about the bias towards bringing back on someone who gave you
Minotaur's coming, by the way.
Who gave you a good review.
That's coming later. Someone asked if we're doing the Minotaur. Yeah, the Minotaur's coming.
Oh, Minotaur's coming out for this Year of Monsters.
Yeah, that's coming out pretty soon.
I want to circle back to that because I feel like there's something that's not even nefarious about that, especially if you're a small publisher. Like, there have been times where, like, I was doing some third-party thing that had, like, 0 reviews anywhere, and some people are, oh, we'd like a review copy, we'll write a review. And so several of them did that, and one of them wrote a review that was, like, 3 out of 5. This seems like it was very well written, but it's not for me. I realized that it's just not what I was looking for. So I didn't ask them to review things that were in that line, that were like the next thing for that line, because it was not what they were looking for.
Right.
I had so few reviews that the 3 stars definitely lowered the rating of that one compared to ones where I didn't give anybody a copy. I realized giving a copy to someone who was on the fence and didn't buy it themselves, you might have someone who turned out that they didn't actually want it at that point. So, like, I don't think there was anything nefarious about that. I wasn't rewarding or penalizing. It just sounded like they did not like it. And so I didn't want them to have to read another thing that wasn't their thing anyway. And I didn't want to get a lower review.
Yeah, right. It's a mutually beneficial type situation.
So I wrote for $2, 2023, the Year of the Zebra. Actually, it would be 2024.
That's right.
The Year of the Zebra.
2023 is the first Year of Monsters.
That's the Year of Monsters. 2024, Year of the Zebra. That's not bad. That's not bad. I think
not this Thursday, so not tomorrow, but I think the following Thursday, I think is when we're going to be probably trying to do that on the Night's Last Call, is just throw out ideas for zebra archetyping. Or a zebra wrangler, archetype. So maybe we'll get it kicked off a little
your
early
entire thing is just zebras? That's all it is?
Possibly. Listen,
right, so,
I don't make the rules, okay? I do. When great role-playing Debbie tips, I listen, okay?
Okay, so what you're going to need to do is find, like, the stats for, like, the newspaper or whatever it is, the journal that has information on it, and create a reaction for the zebra wrangler whenever the zebra takes bleed damage. As a reaction, you can, like, spawn a newspaper, and the name of the reaction is what's black and white and red all over.
I don't have my I don't have my trombone.
Can't do it. No, you got to do that.
Damn it.
You know, that's the common little kid joke where the answer is whichever of newspaper or like a bleeding zebra that the person did not pick, so that they always get it wrong.
Right.
Great role playing Debbie says Zebra Revolution for $10 Australian.
Zebra Revolution.
Revolution.
Hey, if we get if we get 400 likes, we'll make Derik sing.
No, there's no saying.
yeah.
Although you guys are like me now. Look at we're coming up on two hours. I remember when you guys would go for 90 minutes and be like, "Oh, we're getting too long."
I mean, we've done 2 hours before. We've done over 2 hours.
This is
I know.
a good topic.
I'm saying
a good topic.
you've
DM
evolved.
Layer just does 3 hours every time, apparently.
Yeah. Well, this is a good topic, and we're retaining viewers. Like it's almost barely
Listen,
left off. So.
I'm happy with my 50. Okay, let's just.
Well, you be happy.
I
with your
had
50.
like a couple hundred in there one time. I don't know if I liked it. I was like, there's too much going on.
Well, we had 8,000 was our record.
That's insane.
I
mean, you know what? I mean, I got to be
It
honest
was
with you.
almost 9,000.
Yeah, it was nuts.
It's so something though that I'm not one to shy away, because you mentioned that this is about WoTC damage control, and I have seen some people talking about it. And I'll bring it up, which is, so there was a statement made by Kyle where he basically said, I think, and I'm paraphrasing him here, I think it would be good if we had more diversity at Wizards of the Coast. I agree with that. Because some people were saying in
I know
chat,
the one you're talking about. He was people were asking about why there wasn't more diversity, and his answer was, which is kind of accurate.
True.
You can't have more diversity
unless
as long as people continue
right
being in the job. You have to either fire them or create more new openings, and you're not going to just randomly fire huge swaths of your people. So
exactly,
he was like, you can't have the people who are not as diverse leave the company fast enough to get to as diverse of a group as people are looking to see.
By the way, we had a question.
I paraphrased him. Chat's like, chat's like, wow, you're good. I paraphrased him because I don't know what he exactly said, so I don't want to misquote him. I know he said we need white people or something to leave Wizards of the Coast. Okay, yeah, that's accurate.
Wait, real quick. Era said, "Is there a date when Strange and Unusual will come out? The physical book. I'm waiting for that combined shipping, as the costs of the EU are hellish already. They're only going to get worse."
I think he said guys like me can't leave soon enough.
Right, he said that. He did say that.
Right.
But by the way, so real quick, Strange and Unusual working on very hard, trying to have the PDF out this month. I don't know if it's going to make it, but it's getting pretty close. Basically, the hardcover book comes out about 3 months after the PDF. Because as soon as we do the PDF, we send it over, and that's how long it takes.
And we've made a lot of good progress on the 5e conversion. The main thing is that the copy fit work that we did for the PF2 version is going to need to be redone in the 5e version, and that's going to be its own challenge again. But other than that, we're doing very well. I'm optimistic on that one for this month, and obviously on getting RPG Superstar out this month.
Oh, that's coming out. That's starting next week, no matter what.
Yeah. With all of those things launching, I'm beginning to think that the Elemental Avatar playtest will probably be early April instead. But
we'll see.
We'll see what we can do.
We're seeing what we can do. Well, I know what he was getting at about the white. He just said it poorly, but
I just typed that in chat.
I
said, and the way he articulated that was done almost stupidly, it
was done so
almost
inflammatorily that he was guaranteed to get soundbited against himself from it.
Yeah. But I know what he was getting at is that exactly what you said, Mark. It's like you need to get people out of positions to get new people in positions.
Right. And by the way, I'm not trying to, some people are like, oh, let's listen. I'm not saying that they should just hire random people. I mean, they should be qualified and talented game designers.
Let me ask you a question.
It's just the way a lot of industries are working now, and it's not even just about demographic change. It's also about getting younger, new generations of people in. There are just a lot of people in the baby boomer generation, and they're enough that just like these top slots in a lot of places, or a lot of those slots, they just don't open unless the person happens to leave or get fired for a reason. And that is true not just in D&D, that's true like across the board in many places.
Well, I told you guys, I love to repeat myself, but not everyone's heard all my stories except you, is that I saw that was documentary about airline pilots. So now the way it works in airlines, which is something you want, is that you have to work up to seniority and have the number of hours that you fly before you can get things like international flights. Like those are given to people with years of experience, and then even like cross country flights. So usually so the smaller the flight, the less experience, and then they slowly work them way up. Now, back in the 80s, every single pilot was a man, pretty much. And it was very hard for women to break in, and only in the 80s did they start to break in as pilots, because it's one of those, okay, you can't just award, they can't just say, okay, I want to award a woman or a person of color, not a white male,
right,
a prestigious, New York to London flight. It's like, no, you need 20 years experience or 15 years experience. Like there's literally these benchmarks. So it takes a while to get up to it. And my point being is that you can't just always just award these things to people just because you want to. Is that sometimes there is, and that's in doctors, the same thing. It's like
there's no. I mean, for starters, let's be very clear. Game design is not flying planes or saving, doing heart
1,000%.
surgery.
Yes.
That being said, I mean, I think that a lot of people are like, oh, they should just hire the people who are the best to replace them. Yeah, sure. I mean, if that worked and it created a very statistically balanced workforce, then that would be a perfectly fine and acceptable solution.
Oh yeah, pilots.
And if it didn't, then you'd have to reevaluate your practices, because obviously that is not working and there's bias.
Yeah, pilots actually do have a mandatory retirement age because their facilities and their eyesights eventually go, and you actually can't fly as you get older. Eventually, you physically can't. So they have retirement ages. But anyhow, it was about this woman, and she was the first captain. And she actually was one of the people who had to land her plane in Newfoundland during 9/11, and she retired a couple of years ago. And it was interesting, and now she kind of broke the glass ceiling. But it was mostly because when she tried to break in, it was mostly people from World War II were most of the pilots. And then when they retired, then it's a generational thing, and then it was easier, and now there's more female pilots and there's more people. So it's just interesting just how, you can't just always award things just because they want them or they feel like, okay, I am this person, I should get it. It does sometimes have to be merit based. We got a ton of super chats very quickly.
So we got, let's see, Antonio Gabriel Montes with 225 Argentine pesos. Where do zebras stand on the kangaroo-Uruguayan war, which is
no idea
if the 47 million kangaroos from Australia invaded Uruguay, I guess who would win?
I mean, I imagine they have to stand with their fellow mammals. Right?
I think the zebras would win. They would be waiting. They're mean. They would be waiting to see which of the
zebras
two forces
skittish.
was
They run
weaker,
away.
and they would come in and they would wipe them out.
Wait, have you seen kangaroos? Kangaroos are so strong.
They are pretty strong.
Very strong.
The buff, bro.
But kangaroos have terrible eyesight. They can't see more than a few inches past their eye.
Zebras
their
would
eyes.
use their stripes to blend in.
They would
with
never
their
see them.
surroundings.
They would never see them coming. Literally.
It would be a guerrilla warfare. They may even hire guerrilla
Or zebra
mercenaries.
warfare.
There you go.
But
Great role playing Debbie for 20 Australian dollars said, "This is what happens when you let game devs on stage. Sometimes they say stuff we may not like. Also, would you prefer this guy or a PR guy? I think the intent was commendable, and that's what we should be focusing on." Whereas Mr. Kogoro for $10 said, "Do you think the industry VTT push will include adventure customization by AI? Would you enjoy authoring content that an AI manipulates for players?"
well, those are two different questions. Let's do
Yeah,
the
I think
first
those
one.
are different.
I mean, well, great role playing Debbie was, would we prefer if it was the dev just talking and giving his, opinion or a
versus
PR guy?
a polished PR
Yeah,
person
right.
who was just giving.
Well, we've established that Wizards of the Coast has terrible PR staff anyways, so I guess we would prefer to be the game devs clumsily
wasn't the
written.
PR staff person the one who said we won, but they won, but
No
so
one
did
knows.
we?
Yeah,
No one
so
knows.
Exactly, no one knows. But
Even Kyle at least claims that he doesn't
No
know
one
who
knows.
wrote that.
right. All
No
I'm
one
saying is they can't do a worse job than the PR team already has. So I will take the potentially clumsily worded statement from the tweet from the game dev rather than the PR, because the PR would have said something like, I don't know, something horrible.
Well, anyhow.
I don't even want to speculate in
Yeah.
that category of a horrible thing that could be
The
said.
point is what it used to be, and this is what I think I'm waxing nostalgic on, and Paizo still does this. Cobalt still does it. You and me still do it. We do this every week. You can ask us anything about the Battlezoo line. We'll happily tell you about it. Like, we are out and about and talking about our stuff, good, bad, or otherwise, and we have nothing to hide. We want to get our products out and talk to people about it. It feels like, I think that's it. It's like, it just feels like WoTC used to be out there, and they've been getting behind this barricade and these walls, and they've really put their defenses up. And then when they were attacked because of something they did, they're playing like, ooh, poor us. You know, like, we're so sorry. We didn't mean to hurt all you people. We were really trying to go after the Disneys of the world because we don't want them to come in and steal all of our stuff. I'm like, oh my
That's
God.
why we made a baseline that would hit you.
I know.
Because
I
it
was like
Disney.
puking when I heard that. I'm like, come on.
I mean, look, it was definitely corporate doublespeak, and you know, and again, because you know why? Because they're a corporation, and that's what corporations do.
Ugh, I know, but you know what? That's not true. Because when I would get wined and dined by EA and Blizzard, they're corporations, and they did it with respect, and they knew what they were doing, because the people who were doing it were actually gamers. The PR people were the gamers. They were gamers too. Everyone was a gamer there. I feel like we've been saying it. It's like you have the developers, and then you have like the management, and the management, I bet you they don't play D&D, the top management, you know, not like the Chris Perkins management, they do, but like the very top management, the Chris Coxes and stuff. No way do
I
they
think
play
it's
these
clear
games.
that I mean, some of them have said that they don't, but like Kyle Brink does.
Yeah.
So some people do. And I guess I would say that circling back to the thing that you said before, Stephen. Sorry, I blanked on what the thing that you said before that I wanted to circle back to. Give me keep going. I'll come back to it.
So, let's see, Mr. Kangaroo. I don't think that's how you pronounce it, but I'm going to say
No, it was Mr. Kogro. I already
Kogro
said that one.
All right. What do you think of it? Well, will include customization by AI. Yes. Well, any video game you play now has AI and has customization in it. So everything has AI. Depends how you define AI. I mean, you know, you could say Photoshop has AI in it, which it does. It has a lot of AI in it. Like, everything has AI. I'd say autocomplete is AI, because it is.
I think there'll be tools to help. Like, they might have the VTT with like a tool that you can put a monster under the AI's control. And then you don't have to deal with running that monster until you take it back under your control or something like that. That's something I don't think would be a problem if they gave you the option as the GM to put a certain thing under the AI's control. Ooh, I remember what I wanted to circle back to, Stephen. You were talking about circling the wagons in terms of not talking as much publicly about things. I think as a company gets bigger, that just happens. Not just because the executives and the PR team tell people, hey, we have a company line, and we don't want individuals going out there and breaking it. But because of the fact that you wind up, even within a community of like the designers and creators, you wind up being held down by the size of your pool, by the lowest common denominator of whoever thinks that the fewest number of spoilers or leaks that should come out should be out, because that person will like CC everyone, or, you know, send messages to managers and be like, I don't know if this person should have said this thing, right? So you wind up, the bigger the company gets, the lower that bar gets, and the harder it is to have a lot of engagement. Whereas like with you and me, Stephen, we're the only ones. So if I'm like, hey, I want to do this thing, and I talk to you and you say, do this thing, then we do it. We don't have to worry about whether there's 40 other people and one of them thinks that's revealing too much, because we don't have as many people in the process.
Well, I'm going to use an example. So I think things have changed since those days. So the days when I was doing this, I was podcasting, and it was very new. It was brand new. I'll give you an idea. World of Warcraft just came out. I think the first review I ever did was for God of War, the first one. And I also did a review of World of Warcraft. So that was like 2004. So 20 years ago, I was doing my Gaming Steve podcast. And that's when I was getting invited to these things. There was no YouTube. I mean, there was, but not really. So there was no social media. There was like, they were able to control the narrative, really control the narrative. these companies. They can invite you, they can give you what information they wanted, and then you would be obligated to could only put out what you wanted. I remember the day this changed because it came when we went to E3, and it was like with the PlayStation like 3 or 4 when we went there, and Sony had a terrible conference, and Microsoft had an absolutely stellar E3. It was so good, their E3. And not only did Nintendo was like okay, Sony was atrocious, and EA was atrocious, and they got destroyed because that was like the first time that social media really exploded, and E3 invited everyone. And they were not able, because they had so many bloggers. Remember those bloggers? They had so many bloggers, and they had so many YouTubers. They had so many podcasters that they couldn't control their messaging, and they got ripped to shreds. And E3 and Sony were so angry that they said they weren't coming back to E3 because of this, unless the ESA, the people who run E3, controls like who they invite, because they were like too much riffraff, too many people we couldn't control anymore. And I remember that. I was like, wow, the table is turned. Like suddenly we are the people in charge, not them. Like we're controlling the narrative because there's too many of us, and they can't corral all of us. But by the way, Microsoft did corral all of us. They did a fantastic job at it. And I still remember that. I'm like, wow, that was like when the tables turned. So at this day and age, you either really have to spend a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of effort, because so many people have a voice that you really have to spend millions controlling and answering and continuously massaging the message, which these big companies do, or you do the WoTC approach, which is we're just going into hiding and we're going to do nothing. And a lot of companies do that too, because it's just too freaking hard. It's too hard, and also, man.
You know, people have fairly short memories, and you know, they move on, and then they get all very, like, oh yeah, we're all going to cancel our D&D Beyond subscriptions, and then it's like a month or two later, and they're kind of like, well, okay, that we're on to the next thing, and we can just go back to it. They haven't said anything, but they haven't not said anything, so we can just move back to it. But again, it is a game, so I'm not like super concerned about it. But there's other games.
There's so many games.
So
there's lots of games out there.
Great role
two
playing
super
Debbie.
chats.
I know, she's going crazy.
2 kangaroo and zebra super chats.
Wow.
Great role playing Debbie for $5 Australian says, I don't have the money task for a feet line to make a kangaroo fighter. I shall simply have to become a game designer for it. XD. And I, for $5, says, I'm bringing Little Debbie zebra cakes to my Pathfinder Society game tomorrow.
You guys are crazy.
Well, if you go a little great role playing Debbie.
Do you know what that's? By the way, their actual name is Phoenix. But do you know why their name is that?
No.
Do you get the reference, Mark? Do you get the reference?
GRPD.
Which reference? Great role playing.
Great role playing Debbie. Great role playing Debbie.
No.
It's from a Jack Chick comic.
Oh,
one with-
yeah. Okay, I know which Debbie.
Yeah,
is.
that's
funny.
That's so funny.
It's
That's
my
like-
fault. Blackleaf died.
You got it. That's what it's from.
That's good. If you go to the Discord channel, Roar for Combat or Knights of Last Call, we got a lot of people there who will help you build this out. Okay.
That's true.
No, seriously. I mean, you don't need to be a game designer. You got a lot of people, and these people are pretty good. So if you need help or want some suggestions.
I mean, I both agree with you and slightly disagree, Steven.
Yes.
I think you are a game designer if you do that.
Yeah.
If you go on the Discord channel and work together on things with that. So I disagree with you. Don't need to be a game designer, but I agree with everything else you said.
I didn't say you have to be. No, I said we have good.
You said you don't have to be a game designer, but I think you are a game designer if you do.
It's like a great line from the criminally underrated Avengers: Age of Ultron.
Oh my god, that movie sucked.
Okay, criminally underrated.
Sucked.
Okay. Hawkeye is in Sokovia, and he's in the building with Scarlet Witch, and he says, "You got to get out there." And she goes, "I'm not an Avenger," and he says, "If you step out that door, you're an Avenger."
You know,
that's Mark giving that person the pep
If you
talk.
step out that door, you're a game designer.
You step out that you're a game designer.
Now,
You know-
now I just want to say, while that is true,
Movie's terrible.
if you like trap everybody in like some kind of a weird TV thing, and then just like start going into alternate realities and
WandaVision?
like murdering people, then you're no longer a game designer. At that point, you are a villain.
That's WandaVision. You know, wait, when they brought, what was the name of the country in
Sokovia.
Sokovia, which has a base of adamantium or whatever it was, or titanium, whatever the hell it was. Vibranium, whatever this crap it is. If you brought it up to the height they did and drop it, it actually will destroy the planet. Just letting you know, you can't do that. but whatever. I know it's fake. Great role-playing Debbie.
For
$5
$5 said, I actually did not know the reference for Great Role Playing Debbie XD. I just cheesed Derek stream XD.
What?
And
Is that amazing coincidence?
No. Well, because we will say it all the time in our stream.
Yeah.
And so he just changed his YouTube name so that, because we always say that all the time. Great role playing, Debbie. Like whatever. And we just say it as like a tagline.
So great role playing
There you
Debbie
go.
was cool and in the know without being cool or in the know.
Exactly.
There you go.
Exactly.
And John M said, if I hang out with the mob boss and talk shop with the mob boss, I'm part of the mob.
That's true.
I would say yes.
Yes.
Also, DDB says, play Dark Sun using Shadow the Demon Lord. Yeah, I mean, I think you'd have to make a couple changes, but I actually don't think that's a bad idea.
Oh, and we have some
They probably don't have hateful defecation on Athos.
we have some suggestions here. Go
Right.
to
The dark horror demon evil apocalypse part. Apocalypse, yes, but the dark evil horror demon. There's actually no outsiders on Athos.
We have go to the Pony Finder books and use some of the feats and abilities in there for
the zebra.
for your zebra. Not a bad idea. Have you played Pony Finder, Derek?
I have not, but there was a Pony Finder limited edition series of games run on the Knights of Last Call community Discord by someone both serious and trolling, which is of course my favorite type of trolling. And by the way, if you think, oh, only Derek serious trolls, no. Mark is the king of serious trolling. Dungeon Ancestry is it is the pinnacle of the serious troll. There is nothing will ever. Nothing. It doesn't matter. Mark
both
designed
of us.
Fine.
He
Roll
wrote
for
it.
combat.
He wrote it.
I made it even more serious when I was discussing it with Steven. It wasn't contradictory to anything he said, but I was like, I want us to play it super serious because it'll make it funnier. And he was like, that's awesome. Go ahead and do that.
Yes.
Excuse me. But yeah.
Yeah,
but
serious troll. Serious troll.
But serious trolls are the best. Like that. Serious trolls are great because it's a double troll. Because
that was like a quadruple troll.
Actually, because like I'll give you a great example of serious troll. OG Stephen Colbert, like the Colbert Report.
Oh God, when he used to do Steven versus Steven, they were that was so good.
It was so good. No, anyways,
I will interrupt this serious troll with a late breaking bulletin. An hour ago, it looks like D&D Beyond put out a March 8th update about what to expect in 2023.
All right, now this suddenly
in
went
our
from
inaugural post, they said we're providing an overview of what's completed, what's actively in development, what we're planning for D&D playtest events, and our support of the creative community. As a note, we won't cover book releases here, as you can find that information in our articles, our YouTube channels, and on social media. That out of the way, let's jump in. Done. Add SRD 5.1 to Creative Commons. Release 4 playtest packets for 1D&D. Collect feedback via 3 surveys for playtest content. In progress, localize SRD 5.1 in French, Italian, German, and Spanish. Review previous editions for inclusion in Creative Commons. Publish our internal content policy for D&D products. Update the D&D core rules. Upcoming. Ensure 1 D&D rules updates are compatible with 5th edition and the SRD. Those are the things that they said. I guess that's not anything that's super,
not that super breaking,
new, but I just saw that
breaking news, not breaking.
Breaking news. It's not very. Oh, but wait. Community events. They've made plans to support certain conventions this year, although it doesn't say what they're exactly going to do for any of them. It names a bunch of conventions and says they've made plans to support them. It doesn't say for sure that they are sending anyone there. They did put a what's happening in some of them that included things like D&D play and learn to play spaces, or
they're going
get the latest on D&D products.
They're going to South by Southwest.
They have D&D Direct, which is online. Learn to Play Your Adventure Begins, which is a store in the US, in Canada. DM Camp Dungeon Messing is for everyone, which is also stores in the US and Canada. UK Games Expo, that's like the biggest convention in the UK. I know Paizo's gone to that sometimes before in Birmingham. Comic Con International in San Diego. Gen Con Indianapolis, it says TBA. Fan Expo Canada in Toronto. Big Bad Con in Burlingame, California. Family Friendly Build a Community Together, also in stores. Geek Girl Con in Seattle, Gamehole Con in Madison, Wisconsin, and PAX Unplugged in Philadelphia.
What
I thought of going to
Did you have
Gamehole Con before, but
do you
I've
have
never
the
gone.
do you have the link to that? I have no idea where you're getting this from. I
The
can't
link
find
to
it.
that, it's
Yeah.
D&D Beyond.
I didn't see it.
Okay, I'll send you a chat in our chat that's just us three. There you go. Beyond.
Well, now that's on top of.
You do love adding that, the Beyond part every time. It's not just D&D; it's D&D Beyond.
Oh, I see. Oh, I
There you
see.
go.
It's community. Oh, I see. I see.
Good stuff. Well, yeah. I mean, it's again, interesting times. I myself picking up some new role playing games Kickstarter. Hopefully, like I said, I mean, my hope still maintains that there's going to be a good chunk of people who use this experience to decide to shop for other games. Keep playing your 5e game. That's great. But, look at some of the other games. Check them out. People definitely came over to Pathfinder 2 in droves. Not that I think the Pathfinder 2 community ended up being too happy about that, but
Yes, we were.
no. Have you been on Reddit?
What? No, they were.
They were.
Pathfinder
No.
2e community was.
You're just being
like,
negative.
compared to
not
other
being
communities.
negative.
When something
Nah,
like that
you're
happened.
negative.
Fine, compared to other communities.
Way welcoming. I even
You
saw
kidding?
some of the new people be like, we were shocked how welcomed we were.
They're
given
so
how
welcoming. They're
unwelcome-
scaring everyone off.
Yeah, okay, no, you're right. You're right. They were very
They're
welcoming.
so welcoming.
Until
Until what? Wrong.
until a new 5e player started saying about like, I'm thinking of changing these rules of Pathfinder 2. Then things got out of control to the point where the mods had to like make posts about how, hey, we need to stop the aggressive attacks against people who want to change Pathfinder 2 rules. So that was,
Well, you shouldn't be
nice.
changing rules. No.
Yes, and like basically like
That's a joke.
I know, but the Pathfinder 2, I get it. Like the Pathfinder 2 people were like very, very frustrated because they were like, wait a second, you left 5e because you said you couldn't stand how there weren't any rules and you had to make all these rulings. So you come to our game, which has rules and rulings for everything, or rules for everything, and then the first thing that you're going to do is start changing the rules. What the hell is wrong with you? And again, you know what? Maybe I don't know that I don't disagree with the Pathfinder 2 people. I actually don't know how. I wasn't really a part of all those conversations, but there's a certain logic and sense to say try it first, maybe, or hey, guess what? It's a different game. Don't play it like 5th edition. It is a different game. Play it differently. If someone tried to put dungeon delving combat grid mechanics into my copy of Avatar Legends RPG, I'd be like, what are we trying to do here? Anyways.
Is that what you're doing?
Dungeon delving with the avatar.
Yeah. All right, Aang, you got your +2 staff of striking. You're smashing your way through Firelord Ozai. He's got
Sorry, Aang, you don't get the treasure for Ozai because you sent him back.
No, Aang went old school. He went to Book of Exalted Deeds and he picked up the
He's got the vow of poverty.
Vow of Poverty.
Okay.
Ironically
And
enough,
the vow
Mark,
of non-violence.
I literally have that right here.
What?
We were just talking about it the other day.
You're a weird geek.
Yeah.
We have 400 likes. 402. So we should have Mark do something silly. Mark has good voices, I'll tell you.
What are you gonna make me do this time?
I don't know. Anything you want. I'm so bad.
Okay.
I'm naturally silly. I'm normally a total goofball, so to me, it's no different.
All right, so there have been so many likes here that I will tell you guys something about the Dungeons Expanded Ancestry that is coming on the anniversary of the original Dungeons for April, maybe even April 1st.
Depends.
So
Still gotta lay
I
it
will
out.
do it, and I can talk about it in a weird voice. So let's see. Which one do I want to do? So how about talking about one of the groups of dungeons that that exist? And that dungeon group that I will talk about is psyches. So psyches are a type of dungeon who awaken to sapience. It is tightly linked to the mental states, usually those of a creature who died or merged with the dungeon, creating an original core or avatar. Because of this, psyches are especially unlikely to rise naturally without an outside entity to spark their creation, become the genesis of the nascent dungeon. So when you're building a dungeon within as a GM, if they are a psyche dungeon, consider the fundamental psychological or societal conflicts of the creature whose mind seeded the dungeon's creation. Each of these could become a thematic floor in the dungeon, representing one of the struggles of identity and self for the dungeon PC to overcome. For some ideas, you could look up various real-world psychological or sociological theories. For example, psychologist Erik Erikson theorized struggles across life stages, including trust versus mistrust and autonomy versus shame. Be sure to customize these as appropriate for the specific dungeon. For more inspirations when designing a psyche dungeon, consider checking out the Persona and Artonelico game series, which explore the ideas of dungeons reflecting people's minds and inner selves. Major rewards for psyche dungeons floors are usually also thematic to the struggles overcome, rather than something tangible, like automatic bonus progression based on defeating the psyche dungeons floors, soul seeds from Secrets of Magic, rather than physical relics, or bonus skill proficiencies, access to unusual feats and archetypes, and more. So there you go.
You can
That
be
is
a
me in like
psychic dungeon.
Very nice.
A psyche style dungeon is in my somewhat sinister guy who's in the back of the tavern and has a quest for you voice.
Although we did write the dungeons, I still haven't done a dungeon ancestry or race. I wanna try it though. It sounds as I was the one who. Well, it came from Ginny D. Because she joked she wanted to be a dungeon.
Right.
And then
when
you
she
could-
made the advertisement for the dragon one.
Yeah, you
she
could
just
be a
had-
dragon, but right.
Then
And
she's
then
like-
she had a person in a different shirt because she always is talking to
Right.
herself in a different
Yeah.
shirt. So there was a her
So,
in a different
well,
shirt.
all right.
So I kind of want to ask you now if I can play a dungeon. So,
So
we went, okay.
but-
Where okay, so where is the path ancestry? We got a dungeon, we got a dragon. Where's the path ancestry?
I think the closest you
Heritage
can come
could be
to
like
having a character who's a path is
yeah,
there's
like a road, a trail. Like you can have different heritages.
Yeah.
Road, trail.
You could do a kami ancestry because one of the types of kami preside over a path or a road. So you could do that one.
no,
That would
I
an
want it to be
actual
like
creature.
dungeon. I want to be the actual road.
Yeah, but with dungeon you play an avatar for the dungeon. So the
That's
road
true.
has the avatar, which is the
Yeah.
kami.
All right.
well,
all right,
that's
do it.
that case because I read a lot of LitRPGs, and LitRPG one of the. I love LitRPG. I know. Have you read any? I'll give you the. I'll give you the good ones. So there's good ones.
No. You know what? No.
There are good ones.
No.
John Stats
because
wrote one. This is excellent.
that
It's not published
That-
yet, but it's
I-
really good.
I am not one to.
Well, anyhow, there's a whole one. There's about the dungeon where it's like you are a dungeon, and that's where it came from. It's it's very popular.
There's a certain subsection of our community, Knights of Last Call community, who loves lit RPGs,
It's
and I just
it is
roll
something no
my
one
eyes.
has heard about, and it is always in the top bestsellers of Amazon, and no one's heard because it's all self-published, and it does unbelievably well. It's it's if you wouldn't believe how well it does. There's a lot of crap out there. John Stats has probably has listened to every single one. Like he listens to every single one. There's a lot of crap out there, but there's a couple really good ones. Unfortunately, the one that I loved the most, they stopped writing because no one was reading it, which sucked. But whatever. Why do people hate you, Derik? I don't agree with you, but I always find your explanations and conversations genuine and engaging, while most people would just shrug and walk away. You're fun.
You know what? Love to love me, love to hate me. It's so fine. Just watch, like, and subscribe. Ding, ding.
Oh, that's a good quote. What is your favorite lit RPGs, Derik?
Oh, I don't know any lit RPGs.
Oh, okay, I gotta look it up. It's called there's the Goblin RPG. There's the what's the one called?
What was the dungeon one that you said was good? It was it
hold
called
on,
like Divine Dungeon, something like
Yeah,
that?
hold
I
on.
don't
Yeah,
know.
I'm looking at my library.
I didn't read any of you.
I'm going to my. I gotta put on my glasses. I gotta put on my lit RPG bookshelf in my Amazon. Look at that! I got a whole bunch. We have the Land. Yeah, I don't like those. Which ones? Oh, Life Reset. That one's very popular. That one's good. Earth Force. I love Earth Force. He only wrote 2 books, and they didn't sell. And he's actually doing a 3rd, thank God, because that was my favorite one. I really liked Earth Force a lot. And then it's literally called Dungeonborn, and there's the Crafter's Dungeon. There's a couple of them, but the Dungeonborn series is the Divine Dungeon, where it is literally a dungeon.
There you go. So it is Divine Dungeon.
It is a
thought
Divine
that was what
Dungeon.
you had said, but it's been almost a year, so to be able to remember exact things is challenging.
Yeah. And what's so interesting is that LitRPG literally was invented in like 2016. It's so new. It's brand new. It actually was mostly Russian, I think, and Japanese, and then it came over mostly.
Let's see. I'm looking at our Discord at our what you reading.
Well, Amber was lit. Yeah, there's a lot of things that were lit.
The Land, a Rogue Dungeon.
The Land is not
Chaos Seeds.
Yeah, the Land's not that great. The Land starts off good, then it gets total garbage.
Spells, Swords, and Stealth series.
Actually, the best of lit RPG, Piers Anthony Split Infinity. That is a good series.
Split Infinity and Juxtaposition
Yes.
and those ones?
Yes.
I don't even think they're lit RPG.
They're not lit RPG, but
I
they're
disagree
gaming
that they're lit
RPG.
RPG.
No, okay, they're not, but they're loosely. They have the gaming aspect. They have the game. Remember
there is
the
a
game?
giant game that they play,
It's
but
very
I just
good.
I don't feel that it is
No,
lit
you're right.
RPG.
It's not lit RPG, but it is interesting because it's a guy who's in 2 worlds, both fantasy and science fiction. And the science fiction world, their entire society is based on a game called The Game. And the game is every game known to mankind is the game.
There's some kind of a matrix of games,
Yes.
and one
Yep.
person selects a row and another
Yes.
person selects a column.
And
so
it's like
you
one
try
is
to-
animal, one is like cooperative, solo, and like random. And then the random is literally 50-50 chance. And it can be anything. And it could be like, you could literally be a jockey in a race. You could be playing checkers. You could be doing an acting competition. Anything. It's actually pretty interesting. There was a sequel that sucked, but the first 3 books. Now again, I was a kid when I read them, so they might have not.
I also read them as a kid. I did
Yeah.
not even know there was a sequel series.
Yeah, there
you
was,
go.
and it was 4 books in the sequel. The Land
It
starts
felt like
off
it was kind
really
of
good.
done after the 3rd book. But,
It was done, but it was such a big hit. He had to do more. But yeah. T2 play by post. Oh, I've done play by post.
This is my personal hell. Is people talking about lit RPGs?
Well,
there you go. Well, Derik, I think that people like to have you on for some of your many personal hells, like Leshies and lit RPGs and pop-ins.
you know, this is the
because
weird. Oh, Ready
people
Player
like
One.
watching you disliking things that everyone else likes.
Is
as,
Ready
like,
Player
part of
One a
content.
lit RPG? Kind of.
No,
Kind of.
It has it's like the theme,
Right.
is-
That's like Split Infinity. There's parts to it, but it's not.
but it's not a literal lit RPG.
Lit RPG is that you, as the protagonist, get sucked into a world
Right.
that is a game,
Actually,
and
you know what?
you're
Take it out.
aware that it's
Take
a
it.
game.
Lit RPGs are
That
based
is-
off of the Dungeons and Dragons animated series.
You
Okay.
are 1,000% correct. That is the OG. The OG is
yes.
the D&D animated series. That is the first See, aren't you glad? And you hate
Also,
this
to an
stuff,
extent,
but if it
Records
wasn't,
of Lodos War is one that was, but
Wow.
that one was like less lit RPG because they were actually just directly
God.
doing their D&D campaign and not treating it as having
Well, right.
stats.
But Record of Lotus War, the media was presented as Parn and Deedlit and Slain and where they were all, real people in their world.
Right.
Whereas the D&D animated series is I'm an ordinary kid in the real world, and then I
I'm
get
on
pulled.
a ride,
And then the intro to the show says they got pulled into the game of Dungeons and Dragons.
Right.
yeah,
So-
it's an isekai. It's
Yeah.
And they have the
there are
dungeon
a lot of
master just
earlier
hanging out there.
isekais like that. Wizard of Oz is also an isekai.
Oh,
People.
Oh, now we're talking about anime, which is the second thing I hate the most.
you know what? This is the
Well,
thing.
being
You always
pulled
talk about
into the
things
world is an isekai plotline, whether it's in an anime.
Let me
or
ask you
not.
something, Derek.
Yeah.
When you did your
By the way, I got about 5 minutes because I have a racquetball game at 6. So.
Okay, we'll go. 5 more minutes. So if any questions now, bring it in, and we're going to wrap this up because 2.5 hours is our limit. When you did your Leshy stream and you had all that stuff going on in the background and all those animations and all that crazy stuff,
Yes.
who did all that?
Me.
So you hate all this stuff, but it was so well done. You have to have some
It's the serious troll, Steven.
Derek
It's the serious.
understands what he hates.
That's right. That's right.
You were like, you are one of those people. I hate this stuff so much that I must embrace it.
No, not embrace it. I just, know your enemy. Keep your enemies close, or your friends close. Your enemies closer.
You don't have to agree with something to be well informed about it.
Correct. That's
Oh my
exactly
God,
right.
making me die here.
But I mean, like the whole point is to here's again. It's just like Stephen Colbert. I'm like, here's this stream overlay, and I am mocking the people who enjoy this, and then to prove my point, the people who am I mocking are like, oh, that was excellent. We loved it.
Yeah, but it was good. It was so well done. It was so funny.
I mean, it was almost unwatchable, but yes,
It was completely unwatchable. That's what I was like. This is so amazing. You got
The
to just...
Mankius priest says that Derek is a grouch with a heart of gold and a soft spot for cute leshies.
I would probably step on every leshy I ever encountered, but I do have a soft spot for many things. Dogs, cute dogs. I love cute dogs. My probably like my third or fourth most visited subreddit is r/aw.
I thought it was going to be otters.
There you go.
No,
Well, as Linda, the over leshy, once said when someone else made a joke about smashing or stepping on leshies, she says, when it comes to gourd leshies with little knives, they don't realize that like carving out a little smiley face into your face is not just how faces are made. So they might just come up to you and do that.
Yikes.
That statement sounded very, very, very like reminiscent of the Pequeños from Speaker for the Dead. How they didn't know that people weren't trees, and they didn't know that by killing people and ripping them apart, they actually weren't rebirthing them. Anyways, fun little culture. But see, here's the thing. The dark leshy, Mark, is far more interesting to me than the cookie cutter leshy.
Who's a dark leshy? Derek.
No, I'm not a dark leshy. I'm saying I like the idea of the leshy that is kind of like it's malevolent in its alienness. And that I appreciate that.
So we have
Okay,
two
so
quick,
we
two
got
quick,
one last super
yeah.
chat because I know
Two
that
quick
Derek
ones.
has to leave.
Yes, exactly. I was
Season
gonna say,
8 just says, why does Wizards complain about being undermonetized that makes Spelljammer 3 tiny books instead of multiple books with the Magic the Gathering crossover? They're throwing obvious money away.
I actually
And
know why. I know why.
Pawn Squared for $5 said, if Battlezoo Eldamon sells well, is there any chance of an Eldamon focused campaign coming in the future?
Let's
Well,
go
we definitely
backwards.
want to do
Let's go
more with
backwards.
Eldamon, but Steven has learned his lesson that making a adventure path is harder than he thought. So
It was
I
only
doubt-
10,000 hours. I mean,
Yeah.
it's time well spent. I mean, 10,000 hours of work for one book? No problem. I'm still freaking working on it. Doing the 5e version. I'm almost done, by the way.
The weird thing is Steven just picks high numbers, but I think if you add up the labor of all the people who worked on it, that it really
10,000.
is 10,000 hours.
Oh, easily.
Yeah.
so by that definition, your company should now be a expert at writing adventure paths, right? Isn't that the 10,000 hour mark?
Yes, but that doesn't mean I want to do it again. But you know what? But you know what? But when they put out the first Adventure Path, when Paizo put out the hardcover for Rune Lords, they said it was so much work they will never do it again. And they did. Then they did, but they were going on and on about how horrible it was.
This one right here.
Yes, it was unbelievably hard. You know what? But here's the thing. So seriously, Pond Squared. Yes, I would love to put out a campaign, but if I do it, we're going to do it with little adventures, and we're going to do it in the model of, we're going to do it like in a model of Pathfinder Society. Like I would do small adventures.
Cool. Or imagine this, Steven. Imagine that we had Aldemon encounters, I could call it.
Encounters. That's no problem.
What it is it's a little adventure. There's a new, rare, or like more unique, legendary Aldemon that no one's ever heard of before, and you get the stats for that Aldemon, and it's like an adventure to go find that Aldemon or something like that.
That's such a good idea that you might have just heard a new product announced.
Oh, please don't make us do it yet, Steven. We don't have
No.
time.
That wouldn't be till next year. But I would also have open call for people to create small adventures, and if we like them, buy them and publish them. So I'm very much into the smaller, bite-sized things now. I'm starting to really get into that.
I mean, listen, you're talking to a guy who thinks we should have never left the module. I love modules.
Well, keep in mind, the main reason we did it is that I wanted something to do. I love adventures. I always wanted to do Adventure Path, and I had access to three of the greatest adventure writers in history.
Look, you did it, and you should be proud of that.
And I'm done. And I love it.
And to be clear, there are a lot of people who really love the Adventure Path format. I'm just saying that I kind of prefer. I
completely agree. And
I guess I'm gonna call it episodic campaign.
I don't like them personally, because I like an adventure, but I think I would prefer to write them and publish them.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, I think it's easier to write and publish, so yes.
Oh, yeah, no, definitely. But with an overarching arc, because that's what we were trying to do in our can't remember what we called it anymore, the Black Lodge. Dark Lodge, when we were trying to do Black Lodge, we were trying to do an overarching story between all the adventures, but it was really hard to do. So if I did it, I think we could do it, especially what we learned about doing an Adventure Path. Anyhow, Cheese of Ages wrote, why does WoTC complain, blah, blah, blah? Why did they do 3 tiny books instead of multiple books and a Magic the Gathering crossover? They're throwing, first of all, the Magic the Gathering crossover did very, very, very well. So that sold extremely well, and that's a good book.
They didn't do that well.
They did two. They did 3.
Oh, you mean
they did 3.
Side.
They did Theros.
Yeah,
they did
Theros.
They did Strixhaven.
Strixhaven.
They did Ravnica.
Ravnica is,
and I know on the Magic side that it was like the best-selling set, like of around that time. The one that was a D&D crossover.
D&D, yeah. No, wait, I'm just looking over here. Strixhaven, not Strixhaven. What's the first one you said?
There was Ravnica and Theros.
Theros is fantastic. I think that is I think that might be one of their best books, because it has nothing to do with D&D. It's a very, very good product. Did you like it, Derik? Did you see that book?
I'm biased because I loved the Magic the Gathering set.
I love that.
I love Greek mythology, and I love Magic the Gathering's take on it.
Hey, Derik, I don't know if you know this, but did you know Theros is heroes with a T?
All right, it is.
That's where it came from. I thought that was like, everyone knew that. Did I just blow your mind? You didn't know that? That's where they got it from.
I didn't know that that's literally how they named it.
That's literally how they got it. I got it on what's his name's podcast, the Drive to Work morning podcast. That's how they came.
I must have missed that. I always listen to
I know.
His Drive to Work.
No, it was a
really well conceived game world. And it was a really good idea of sort of a top-down design where they said, we are starting with this idea of Greek mythology. So, we know we're going to have gods, and we know we're going to have a Hydra, and we know we're going to have an Achilles-like figure, and we're going to have a Perseus-like figure, and we know we're going to have Gorgons, and, Pegasus. And so, like, they really, I have been really impressed with Magic's top-down design sets, because I think
Oh, they're
they
great.
do a fantastic job
They're great.
of telling and showing the flavor of the game through the mechanics, not just the lore, not just the art, not just the flavor text, but the mechanics themselves help tell the story and experience the story of that set. And so when you look at a game, like Theros with its, the heroic keywords and the mechanics and the monstrosity mechanics, like it gave this really fun feel to the game. The way that gods work, devotion, was such a cool idea in the context of that game world. And I do think that all of those tropes lead themselves very well to a D&D campaign. So it's no surprising to me that it did so well and that you enjoy it so much, because I thought it was done well as well.
Well, I'll tell you, say what you will about Magic, when they do a good set, they are incredible. And it is impressive to see how much...
Hard to beat.
It's impressive how much storytelling they get from a little card and game mechanics and just color and presentation. When they get it right, like, Ravnica, what was the dark setting that they went back to? I forgot the name of that
Innistrad?
Innistrad. Oh my God, Innistrad. Loved Innistrad.
Yeah.
They freaking, when they do it, they do it.
Yeah.
But when
Are
they
we missing
miss,
Derik late for whatever.
yeah, he is.
I gotta just go play racquetball.
Two more minutes and then we're gonna go. But anyhow, the reason they did the multiple books instead of, so that was an experiment. I'm 99% sure, because they wanted to see, because that was a very expensive set, and they wanted to see if they can sell 3 books instead of just 1 and make it a higher price, because they wanted to try to see, hey, could we sell a book that's 90 pages for just the core rules, a book that's 90 pages of just the spells, and then a book that's 90 pages, I think it's 96, by the way,
I mean,
of just the DM's guide, because this way everyone gets what they need, and then you can sell more books. And I think it was an experiment. That's what I think 6th edition, they're going to do that.
I mean,
I don't know if they still are. But
Paizo's doing that with Tian Xia, right?
they are. And
There's
I'm going to talk to Eric
No,
about that.
it's
Those are
that's
big books,
completely
though.
different.
But
That's
those are
completely different.
that is
But I mean,
different.
there's a character guide book, and then
Yeah, but
there's
those are big books. Those
Yeah,
are
but they're
96
huge.
page books.
Like they'd be like the core rulebook size. If
Well, I know. I'm just saying they didn't do that for Mwangi. They didn't do that for Impossible Lands. They didn't do that for anything else.
That's because of the fact that they needed more space for all of the things to go into Tian Xia.
By the way,
Tian Xia is an entire continent.
I know. I'm not saying that they shouldn't do it. I'm just saying
Mwangi is one region of one
Yeah,
continent.
and that's a
it's part
huge
of the
book.
core inner sea. It's part of the core inner sea region, whereas Tian Xia is moving the map to a continent that is larger than any other continent in the setting.
Yeah.
It's larger than it's larger than the Impossible Lands plus the Mwangi Expanse plus the Saga Lands plus the Broken Lands plus
then why
all
not
of
do
those other ones combined.
Because they, you know what, they've done everything. Galarian, I think they've between 1st edition and 2nd edition, I don't think they're done, but they've covered every single part of not Galarian.
No, there's plenty that they haven't covered.
Well, let me put it this way: they covered enough, and a lot of people wanted to see T-Shaw. A lot of people.
Yeah,
and
people wanted to see it.
Yeah,
wanted to see it done. It was very popular. I would say Tian Xia and Arcadia both have big fan bases that have been asking for it.
I
right?
want to see Arcadia, like really expand it. And I actually, I was.
That's another example when you say they've done everything, Steven. They haven't done everything in the world.
Let me rephrase it.
Or do you mean that they did everything in the inner sea region?
In the inner sea. No, that's what I meant. They did everything in the inner sea.
I'm saying I think
Not
people are
Galarian,
going to
I
buy.
meant inner sea.
I'm saying I think people are going to buy. I think people are going to buy the Lost Omens. They're going to buy the World Guide, and they're going to buy the Character Guide. And Paizo's going to sell 2 books. Good for them.
But
I mean, that's good.
I
good.
don't even really consider that the same way. Like WoTC
those are
split up
full-size
what could have
books.
been 1 book into 3 books to see what
Those
they
are
could
96 page
sell.
books.
Paizo is not trying. Like Paizo had too much content.
Okay.
And across too much.
Okay. So what you're saying?
It took 2 slots.
You're saying a single Tian Xia book would not sell because it would be what, too big, too expensive,
or it would be something that didn't work for their production model because it needs to take up 2 slots because of how many 2 of the yearly annual slots. How many editor, developer, and our team hours it takes.
My thought was they basically just said, hey, look, we can make a book that is full of mechanics and character build options for the people who are interested in that. And here we can make a book that is full of the lore and the setting and all that other stuff for the characters that are interested in that. You know, I mean, the fact that it's so big and large and needs to be broken up, I think that's probably the right decision. I'm simply saying that, similar to what Steven was describing with Spelljammer, it seems to me like you're basically saying, here's the player's book and here's the GM's book.
I completely agree, but I feel like they aren't A, forcing it on you, and B, you're not getting a 96-page hardcover book, of which is maybe 60 pages of actual content. So
they're
it's
both
like,
complete products that they were needed for the brainstorming. I happen to know, like I was there when
you're
things
arguing
started.
with the wrong
It was not
person,
a
Derek.
No, I'm not even arguing. I'm not trying to say it's like malicious or
grab. There was
I'm not
too
saying
much content.
I'm trying to say I don't. From what Steven described, it sounds like the Spelljammer thing wasn't necessarily a cash grab either. It was an attempt to say, look, we're going to give you different product offerings so you can engage with the product at the level that you're comfortable with.
I completely think they were trying it. The problem is they shouldn't have been. When I heard they were doing it, I was actually very excited. I thought this is a genius idea. And then they're like, they're 96-page books. And I'm like, this is a terrible idea. Because the 96-page book...
I think it would have been a terrible idea, by the way, if the books fucking just worked, which they apparently didn't. So
because they weren't big enough.
Because there weren't rules in them anyway.
They were right.
I think you could make 3 96-page books and have them be good.
Yeah,
I think
People didn't happen to like the ones that WoTC put out.
Right. I don't think the issue was the page count. I think the issue was what was in those pages.
Maybe. I think, look, well, okay, so...
Like,
there's
the books contain nothing, not because they were short.
Well, guess what? Okay? I don't know if you know this. Mentally, if you buy a hardcover book has to be 100 and around 128 pages. If it is less than 128 pages, it is a hard sell. There's this mental issue with people buying books that are that big and that expensive and that thin. Okay. Now, why don't they do a softcover book? Because softcover books don't sell and they will not be stocked in hobby shops. So they have to be hardcover books. So if you're going to do a hardcover book, it has to be 128 pages. And more importantly, the sweet spot is 160 pages. So you want 160. I'm telling you what you do I'm doing it from a marketing point of view. I'm talking about it as a publisher. That's why you want to do it. 96 pages is that's a bad number. You do not want a 96-page hardcover book.
That's 100.
Exactly. You want 100. You want a minimum. And some books by Paizo, some of them are about 112. They do go down to like 112, 108, some of them 116. That's cutting it close, but at least it's still in the 100. Once you get below the 100, people will not buy it.
Because
and they
losing
feel
that digit has a huge psychological impact on consumers.
It does. I've had long discussions with this with people.
I am in the mental state now. This is an older book, by the way, but I'm in the mental state now where you're like, okay, here's this hardcover book. It's 100 pages long. It contains a campaign setting. It contains an entire game, monsters, and bestiary. And it's all under 100 pages. And I go, thank God, sold.
I also don't have a problem with the 96-page book.
Yeah, neither do I.
I do agree with Steven that there is a psychology about.
He's 100% correct, and I do agree with everything he is saying. I'm just saying, for me personally, I'll take quantity or quality over quantity.
You're completely right, but I think 396. I swear to God, if they literally made those 320-page books, I think. I wish I could do it. I wish I could go like do that alternate reality. I bet you it would have gotten better reviews.
All right.
I think it would have. It's just holding those little books and 3 of them. Like, where you're like, what is this? It's like, why are they 3 little tiny books? It's like,
is that real?
What
in the chat?
What?
Someone, Shadow Draken, said, I wish the Paizo-style pocket books would come out the same time as the hardbacks. Okay, reasonable. The hardbacks take up way too much space, and lugging them around is a royal pain. Pathfinder Society requires proof of ownership?
Yes, it does. If you're going to use a feat or something from the book, you need to show that you own that product. But you can also show it that you have it.
You can have the PDF.
You can have the PDF. You're allowed to show the PDF.
So if I don't own the APG in PDF or anything, even though I can go to Archives of Nethys and get the entire rule set, I can't play an inventor, or I'm sorry, I can't play like a swashbuckler?
No. No, you're supposed to own the book. That is part of society. That's always been part of society play.
What?
Hey man, they got to
That's
make
been
money.
part of pretty much every organized play campaign that I've seen.
I mean, I am
I've
not an
never
organized
seen
play guy, but I'm just
organized
having a
play
hard
campaign
time.
where you don't own the thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just having a hard time conceptually dealing with that. But okay,
Well, guess what? You're bad at capitalism.
I am bad. At, I mean, obviously, right? Like, you could be like, oh, it's to enforce the integrity of the rules. No, it's not. It's so that people have to buy the book.
It's both,
I mean,
though.
there
It's
were-
both.
there
No,
were
you have
some-
archives of Nethys. It's irrelevant.
No,
It's
no, no,
irrelevant.
yeah, but that rule started 15
when the
years
rule
ago.
started, there wasn't Nethys, the only
Yeah.
official version of
Okay,
it.
and if I want to contact Paizo, do I have to send them a self-addressed stamped envelope with postage returned?
Yes.
There
No.
was a PRD
Yes.
for the core rulebook.
Actually,
and
given the
You
state
better
of their
send it
website,
COD, too. I want cash on delivery, baby.
there was a PRD for the core rulebook, and that was something that was assumed to be content. And then everything else, the problem was that everyone was going to D20 PFSRD, which changed text because it was a commercial site. Like, it changed important context because it wasn't able to keep the text since it had product identity in it.
Sure.
Right. So it would remove, like, that you have to worship Sarenrae from the Sarenrae archetype, call it something else. And you would have people coming in trying to play it without Sarenrae who worship Urgathoa or something like that. And so that partially came in due to the fact that it was for verifying and for making sure that they had the rules correctly. Another thing D20 PFSRD did is it let you take an archetype that was a familiar archetype that required you to take another archetype to get that familiar archetype without taking the requisite one. And it made the other archetype seem pointless and allowed characters to sort of back end around it. So they wanted to make sure they could see the rules in context. Anyway, though, we've been here way.
Yeah,
past
I gotta
where we
go.
need
Hey,
to leave.
Derik, I like big books and I cannot lie. Dun, dun, dun,
All right, hold on a
dun, 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 dun.
Let's just
Look at this. This thing is a
You gotta
monster.
stop.
This.
Oh yeah,
Spencer Drix for $2.96. Steve
What do you
Jackson
got?
was
What do you got? Which
3
one's
times
that?
64 paid.
this
I
is
Poultice. Oh, I have that too.
this is the Slumbering
I have
Tsar
that.
Saga,
I
my
have
friend.
that. Yeah, I got that. I got Poultice too, right here, baby. Look at that thing. I have the Slumbering. It's in my.
1,000 pages.
I have that one. I have that. That's in my.
By the way, this is an adventure.
I know. I have it.
For Pathfinder First
I tried to
Edition.
read it. It was like too much.
Oh,
it,
it's so long.
It hurt my brain. It hurt my brain.
I don't even know. That might be the thickest thing I actually own.
The Kingmaker is pretty big. This,
Yeah, no, that's definitely
this
big.
Ages of Empires is a monster. I don't even know how he did this. And he did this. Legendary Games did this adventure for first edition Pathfinder, second edition, and 5e. And it's 500. It's how much is it? 540 pages. How is that humanly possible? That would break me. That would break me into 20,000 million pieces if I tried to do that.
Even Repentathuk only comes in at 700.
God.
so.
I'm going to contribute to
All right.
Derek's ability to go to racquetball by leaving.
Okay.
Look, Steven and I were comparing book sizes, okay?
Yeah, we got book
You
sizes.
can go measure your whatever you're going to be measuring at the racquetball court.
Okay, you
Bye,
go do
everybody.
that.
See you
Well,
next
wait,
time.
don't break it. Okay, Sarah Dick said worse than 96 Spelljammer was 364
Yeah, I said
page
that.
books.
Yeah.
Oh, I was 64. Oh, he
All right,
left.
Mark left. All right.
All right,
Well,
he broke our stream. All right.